Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our workshop for May 4th, 2026. Before we begin the work of the district, let us stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no public input cards? Okay, right into the agenda. Code of conduct. Who's going to present that?
Mr. Mabry.
Mr. Mabry.
And Mr. Sellis.
And Mr. Sellis. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members, superintendent. Each year, the Student Code of Conduct and Policy Guide is revised to reflect statutory changes, policy changes to make sure that we are in alignment with statute and policies throughout the Code of Conduct. That is done by committee, and it is a committee of district and school level administrators, folks from our Student Services Department, our law enforcement personnel, and then ultimately reviewed by our legal counsel to make sure that we are in alignment. Leading that work is Mr. Sellis, and he is here to present that to you. He's done a great job of making sure that timelines are followed, because this is quite a lengthy process to get this ready to print for the 26-27 school year. We're actually ahead of schedule right now due to the work that Carlos has done. So I'm going to turn it over to Carlos, and then we're here to answer any questions that you guys have.
Good morning, board.
Morning.
Ms. Cornegie. Good morning. Thank you for giving me the time to present to you the updates for the 26-27 Code of Conduct. I want to let you know that in the committee we have Ms. Elizabeth Emery, which I put there as a vice president of the LCEA. It is a president, so we're going to review that in the Code of Conduct. It's going to be the right one. Also, Mr. Luke Fries is the assistant principal in Oak Park Middle, not East Ridge Middle. So with that being said, the non-substantive edits of this year for this next school year Code of Conduct, we're finally putting everything regarding the X platform. Anything that was saying Twitter, it got changed to X platform. Also, anything that in the Code of Conduct throughout that says medical provider or doctor has been changed to licensed health provider. Okay, so that means that anyone with a nurse that has the license to provide any prescription can also, it's not a doctor, it can be anyone else that is licensed to prescribe medicine. Also, we have the section 6 of technology. The entire section has been revised by IT to realign for grammar and flow. They just read it, they just put it, they didn't change anything, they just make the changes so it will flow better. Okay? Again, for the summer and basis for the proposed revision, we want to align with the Florida statute, also with our policy, and finally, the language cleanup and clarification of our Code of Conduct. I'm going to be presenting to you statute alignment, which is a FLDOE Rule 6A-1.0955. It's the opt-out form, and it is also part of the Code of Conduct and the opt-out form that now is digitally in focus. I'm going to go over those changes from those departments that have provided changes for this next school year. With policy, our instructional technology is adopting the new bill that is going to come out, or that is coming out at this point, about the student use of artificial intelligence, AI. So we are being proactive. This is a topic that might be changing a lot in the next several years because We're reacting, but we're trying to be proactive about the technology. So the IT department is adapting that policy of AI, which is going to reflect in the code of conduct. Also, we changed the policies 5610 about corrective strategy parenting class, and I'm going to touch bases on that in regard on that in a second. Then we have the language cleanup and clarification. For the student services, we have the access to student FERPA. It's a cleanup, clarification of the language, the in-school suspension pass, cell phone policy, and then the behavior range and corrective strategy and disciplinary action. We have cheating, plagiarism, false fire alarm, bullying, harassment, threat, and intimidation, and level 3 discipline. I will talk about that in a second. And the opt-out form, we have 3 opt-out options for parents at the beginning of the school year. The first one is the communication department's parents release. I'm going to talk about the graduation program. The second part is student services, about information to armed services of military recruiters. And then we have the option 3, which is the release of student information for applications required for instruction. It is about clarifying the language and the YouTube for educational application. I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to try to answer as many questions as you can. If not, we have people from IT here to help me out. Now, if we go to our, you got in front of you the revision. It looks like that. That's just a picture, but it looks like that. The revision for the code of conduct, okay? Student services in page 13, section 3, public notice of student services aligned with FERPA. So we have a paragraph where it says that in the event that parents wants a third party who is not legal guardian in the student, including step parents or grandparents, to provide access to student records, the ability to communicate with the students, teachers, or to participate in education and school activities, then both parents must provide the principal prior written authorization. So FERPA doesn't have that, okay? FERPA allows a parent to come to the school and say, I want this person, stepdad, stepmom, grandparents, to engage in the student's record. So we are aligned with FERPA law. And this was placed many, many, many years ago. So we're just aligning with that, okay? So in page 28, just a clarification, in the cell phone policy, we are taking away, and we're changing the word secure instead of leaving the store. So when the student are putting away their cell phone, we're saying that the students have to put them in a book pack. So there is not a, if I store in the back of my purse or the backpack, it has to be secure so I don't run into a problem of taking out a book and the phone jumping out of my book bag, and then I get in trouble. So we are trying to make sure that it's secure. And also we're taking away the part that says, and this doesn't change anything with the statute. We're taking away the part that says as designated by the teacher. We have so many teachers, and the designation by the teacher of an area to put or what that means to put away the phones might change from not just from department to department, but from one classroom to the next. So what's that? Is that the backpack? Is that another place where, locker, class, area in the classroom? So we're taking that away, so we clarify that language. Then we have the part of AI, and it's going to be lengthy, so please bear with me. In page 30, IT, to align with the statute, we have put 2 parts of the AI. One is about the academics, and the second part is the non-academic. Okay? And we have mentioned that the students' use of artificial intelligence, AI, students are expected to develop their own knowledge, skills, and understanding of course material rather than relying solely on AI tools, and they should ask their teachers when they have questions and/or need assistance. Students may use the AI tools for academic purposes when specifically and clearly permitted by their teachers. The use of AI must be properly disclosed and cited in accordance with established guidelines and not be employed to undermine authentic learning and learning objective of the course or assignment. Okay? If the student have any question about whether they are permitted to use AI tools for a specific class assignment, they should ask their teachers. Unauthorized use of AI tools will be considered a form of plagiarism, unauthorized collaboration, or misrepresentation of AI-generated content as original work, or any student found using these tools without permission or in a prohibited manner will be disciplined in accordance with the Code of Student Conduct and Policy 5500. Approve of use of AI as accommodation under IEPs, Section 504 plans, or English learning support plans are not prohibited. And IT is creating best practices to share with our faculties in the schools on how AI should look like. It's extremely different from a English class to a Spanish class to a culinary class, the use of AI. So dictating something specific about AI will either make it too difficult. But IT is creating a best practices in how to deal with AI in the academic part. Now, the second part is the non-academic artificial intelligence, AI. And students are prohibited from using AI to create, modify, or distribute false or misleading depictions of any student, faculty, staff member, volunteer, or school board member. This includes the use of AI to generate derogatory, threatening, or offensive visual or verbal content. This applies to the distribution of such material through any platform, including social media and private messages, regardless of whether the student create the content or obtain it from another source. So later in the presentation, I'm going to talk about where in the Code of Conduct, in the codes, land the violation of the academic and the violation of the non-academic of use of AI. In page 30, also, the IT department is aligning the FLDOE Rule 6A-1.0955, where in that page says that any parent that elects to opt out of their student data being shared with the online education application as provided in Rule 6A-1.0955, an applicable law might do so by selecting the option opt-out of application not required by law on the parent opt-out notification form located in the parent portal of the SIS or in the website. If the parent guardian does not have access to computer, any such opt-out will be administered in the matter and to extent permitted by law and might require alternative assignments or assessments. Okay? Later at the end of the presentation, this is going to be more clear in the opt-out form, and IT has expressed much in a better way than what is in the Code of Conduct. In page 33, 34, 35, in page 33, we have the prescription of medication. Bullet point 4, letter M. Medication is to be administered at home unless a licensed healthcare provider specifically directed to be given during the school hours. So we're not, student services is telling the schools, the nurses, that that medicine will be given to the student with the doctors or, a licensed healthcare provider that specifically say there has to be during the school hours. There I show the changes of medical to healthcare in about required medication management plan. Also, student service has modified the part that says that parents must provide up-to-date medical documentation at the start of each school year instead of annually. So the nurses can just concentrate on that school year, and you don't have to worry if I did it in October, I have to follow up at next October to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. In page 45, in a school suspension pass, we're taking away, which we took several years ago, all the parts that says social and emotional. It seems that we didn't catch that part, so we are clarifying that part. We're taking away the pass in a school suspension, the social emotional piece that we took before. Now, in page 43, 45, 47, 48, and 50, we're taking away as a corrective strategy the parenting class. This parenting class was put in place many, many, many years ago when we have, I think it was
When it was Lake Academy.
Lake Academy, and they have a parenting class where the parents could take in lieu of discipline. Now, we kept that there. We don't have any longer the class, and parents are getting extremely confused and say, I want to take this class because I want the referral of my student to go away. Well, first of all, the class was never for that purpose. It was for the purpose of the ISS or OSS, if the parent took the class. But we don't have the class any longer, so we took that away, which is going to alleviate this principals and assistant principals and deans to clarify what is that class. It was live stream
Yeah.
that had that, so we're taking that away. Then in page 47, about cheating, we're adding the part that says, this include the misuse of AI, artificial intelligence, to submit AI-generated content as their own work. So we're reflecting the academic part of the use of AI in a way that shouldn't be used in that classroom with cheating. We are also reflecting that part in plagiarism. Both of them are level 1. Which it says, this includes the misuse of AI, artificial intelligence, to submit AI-generated content at their own work. Okay? Then in page 50, in level 3, last year we added this part in level 4 and zero tolerance, and I'll take responsibility. We didn't put it in the level 3, which the code of conduct allow the principals to alternately place the student. We're just saying that if the student is being looked for an alternative placement, if the student is recommended for alternative placement, the student shall be suspended for 10 days. We did change it last year for level 4 and zero tolerance, or we clarified last year. We're revising and updating the level 3 as well. In page 51, level 3, false fire alarm 911 calls, we added the Alice's alert. So if any student get a hold to one of our Centric or whatever Alice's alert we're using in the county and they start pressing it, that will be in the reflecting the code of conduct as a violation of false fire alarm calls if it's just a false one, okay? Then in page 55, now we're reflecting the non-academic part of the AI misuse, where we're going to say in the bullying, the use of artificial intelligence to publicly or privately humiliate another person, okay? So if the student is using AI to bullying, we have the code changed so we can discipline the student according to the code of conduct. Also, the harassment, including artificial intelligence, also could be part of the harassment, and also could be, because I can use the AI in a threat and intimidation manner, we included the artificial intelligence, okay? Now, the last part of my presentation is the opt-out form, which is the next piece of paper or handout that you have there. The communication department in the opt-out one has added the part that this consent applies only to the uses described above and might be revoked prospectively by written notice to the school or district. So if they opt out and then they change their mind, they can do that by following those instructions. Okay? Then the last opt-out form, it says, name including any live stream or recording of the high school graduation ceremony or in the graduation program, whether shared, printed, or online. So they can, if they opt out about that, but they also about the program, the online/printed program for graduations, okay? The opt-out 2, it says, we added that for students in 11th and 12th grade, this includes the release of a student name, address, and telephone numbers to the armed services and military recruiters. Not every year, but many years, sometimes the recruiters come to the schools and ask for the director of those student 11th, 12th graders. And we are asking the parents if they don't want us to release that information to the armed services and military recruiters, just to opt out. And last but not least, we have the opt-out 3, which is related to IT about the student information application required for instruction, okay? Which is, I'm also citing, or we're also citing again, the Rule 681.0955, where it says, the online educational applications used for instruction might use student data for rostering, authentication, and progress monitoring. In accordance with the Rule 6A-1.0955, the district shall provide parents access to information require online educational services that use student data and any application parent choices concerning student information. And then we clarify by saying any parent that elects the opt-out of the student data being shared with online educational application not required by law. Okay? So those are the ones that are not required by law, the ones that are not part of our students' suite of applications that does the day-to-day learning, might do so by selecting the option opt-out of application not required by law below. Opting out of the application not required by law might require students to complete alternative paper-based activities and assessment. Examples of the application required by law include digital version of textbook adopted by Lake County Schools, the Student Information System, the Single Sign-On Portal, Google Workspace, including filter, YouTube content, etc. And please click here if you're interested in reviewing the detail of the Lake County Schools application required by law. That link is going to be live when we roll this by IT. Is going to have the list of that, and the parents can make a educated choice if they want to opt out or if they are in agreement. And IT says also, please be advised that any changes to the selection will be required 24-hour processing time. And then at the end of the opt-out, we scratch off, we took out the leg to the opt-out of the specific application for other reason, and please list the application for which the student is opting out. IT says that the parents start picking left and right. I want out of Google, but I don't want out of Focus, but I want out of this, so IT is mainstreaming this process to have a better process to start knowing what application the students opt out that is not required by law. If you're required by law, those are the application that I just mentioned, or the IT put in the opt-out form. With that being said, and I know that I talk about a lot about the IT, and my friends are back here, but I hope I did a good job to tell you in the best of my abilities what they change and they want to express. If you have any questions, this is the time to ask any question. If you don't, I appreciate your time.
Board members?
I have a couple.
Yes.
On the opt-out notification, the part about recording, I assume you're talking about the official recording that's done by the school, correct?
Correct. The official recording that we
Okay.
do provide a live feed to parents or to grandparents or to whoever is away.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How does that take away our liability when another parent, since this doesn't make any mention that it's our recording, say if another parent is there and they record the graduation and they put it on, I don't know, social media, how does this save us against the liability of that
All
happening?
right. I can talk to Sherry, Ms. Owens, to reflect that part.
Okay.
I think that's a good point. I think that is viable, so we can say that is the live stream or
Right.
provided by,
I think we need to point
By
that out, that
schools.
we're talking about the official one that we provide.
Perfect.
Because, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody records, and they
Yeah.
love to post it before we get out of the building.
so yes, we will just add that, so reflects that part.
Okay. And on the medication, just for clarification, I understand about, and I agree, we shouldn't be giving medicine, but do we need to state, or do we need to be very explicit and make sure parents understand? The example that I would give you is a lot of time doctors write prescriptions that say to be given 3 times a day. Now, you and I know you can do that at home. You don't have to
Yeah.
give the medicine at school. But parents don't understand that, and that's their argument usually when they come in. This means my kid has to get medicine in the middle of the day, which is not the case.
Yeah.
So if we're going to ask parents to adhere to this, I think somehow we need to make it clear that those words have to be included, that it should not be given, that doesn't have to be given during the school day, because parents don't get that sometimes.
All right, so I'll get with Dr. Lander. I hear that maybe we might put something that adds that it has to be part of the prescription that says
Exactly.
that the medicine should be given at 11 o'clock, which is lunchtime, or 12 o'clock. So I will put something that reflects that part, which it makes sense that the prescription of the doctor has to expressively say
Okay.
that they have to be during the school hours.
Is that something normally done, that they would give a specific time?
No.
I don't think so.
No, I don't know how you would,
I've seen that. I've seen a specific
You have?
time for a student
Yeah.
in the past that I taught. But I don't know. If 3 times a day, I almost feel like one of those times falls during the school day.
Correct.
Well, now, I've had doctors tell me that it doesn't, that a parent can get up, before the child goes to school, they can give them the medication, they can be in school all day, and as soon as they return home, they can have the medication, and then they can have it again before they go to bed. So that equates to
could be.
3 times a day, but I think we have to be very clear, because most people interpret it exactly as Mr. Dodd said.
Yeah, no, clear.
Because if my kid,
okay, we're going to have a phone a friend. Dr. Landry.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
We are really not talking about the 3 times a day.
Okay.
What we're having problems with is more advanced medications, say, for example, a steroid that says give every 12 hours, and occasionally a parent will say, I gave it very early in the morning, and I need you to give it at the end of the school day. And we're really not comfortable with that. The 3 times a day, we do really interpret as we're going to give the lunch dose. So it's really just those medications that are a little bit more advanced. But I do like your idea. We are going to clarify.
Okay, because I'm not understanding how we, if the parent says, I gave it to him 12 hours ago, how do we say, well, we're not going to give it?
Well, that's why we're putting it here, to say, unless it says that it must be given at school or during school hours, then really we expect you to give it at home.
Okay.
So parents are going to be told that when they visit with their doctor, it has to be specific, or it's going to be expected that it would not be during school days? If they just came in with a bottle, then the answer would be no.
It just has to be specific.
It has to be specific.
Yes. And if it just says 3 times a day, we accept that as morning, lunch, and end of the day. It's not really that one. Or is that going to confuse people?
Yes, I think it's going to confuse people. Because
think-
you're saying that it's the medications that are more intense, I guess is the word, I don't know, that you're really concerned about? Not the one 3 times a day?
Right.
It seems like there are dosing schedules that are avoidable to be during the school day and some that are not. 3 times a day, you probably can't avoid that. You're going to have something, but twice a day, you can probably avoid that. So it seems like that's what we're trying to target, the ones where the parent could really devise their schedule at home to avoid the school dose, but they, for whatever reason, choose not to.
Correct.
And what is wrong with getting the dose at the school? What is the issue?
Our clinics are very busy, and typically those higher, more intense medications, we just prefer that a dose be given at home as well.
I know if we're talking about steroids, and you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but Jace has, on occasion, had to do a steroid treatment, and we have a nebulizer at home that has to be plugged in. It takes 30 minutes to sit and inhale the steroid, and then he acts a little bit wilder when he finishes. So we go outside and run around the yard 87 times because he can't. I mean, I've taken it myself whenever I've had an upper respiratory infection, and it makes my heart like beat rapidly. It bothers me to even have to give it at all. So I don't know if that's an example, but it takes the machine, it takes the inhalation, and then it sometimes can modify their behavior.
And if they're giving 1 dose at home, it makes sense for them to do both doses at home.
Is that the example you're talking about? One that
Steroids.
Dr. Lou?
Yes, sir.
So in that case, they would have to bring a machine in.
Yeah.
And
And
we
it
do
would be-
have that on some of our campuses because the doctor says they do need a midday nebulizer treatment, and we do that. But unless the doctor specifies it, we really prefer parents handle it at home. Just better for the student.
It's better for Jace.
Whatever we're deciding,
But-
my concern is that we just be very specific.
Okay,
and
let me think about
explain
that
to the parent
wording and-
exactly what we're saying.
Make sure that it's
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
It seems like maybe a little more thought to the wording, because it's kind of up in the air whether to do it or not do it, right?
Okay, let's do that.
Last question. Back to the cell phones. Just because I'm not real clear, I understand what's written, but I'm not sure how that takes care of the problem that the parent came before the board for. Remember, her concern was that her child's cell phone fell out, and she picked it up, and she was charged, or was whatever, the teacher or whomever saw her, thought she was violating the cell phone policy. I don't really see anything in here that clarifies that.
The secure part, so if,
Can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
So I met with the parent. She and I had a very long conversation. We went through the verbiage together. And this was, her recommendation was to take out the word stored and enter the word secured. In her mind, that would have the child secured the phone, then it would have not resulted in the disciplinary action that was taken. So that was her recommendation that I agreed to, and also the removal of as designated by the teacher, just to make it more, her concern was child goes to one classroom, they say, no, put it in your book bag.
Right.
They go to the next room and say, no, put it in your pocket. So we took out that verbiage, and that was all based on her recommendations.
Okay. Well, I think it's excellent because to take it out based on the teacher, because that way they could have 6 different ways. I'm just not understanding how changing from stored to secured would keep something like that from happening. But if she's satisfied and we're good with it, so am I. But, I mean, if it's in the backpack and it falls out, it falls out.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that meets the definition of what we're using as secured, right? I mean, she secured it in the backpack. It fell out.
No, secured.
Which word are we changing?
Instantly, they'd be in violation.
The storage to
Right, but we're
secure.
not changing what they have to do.
Does secured mean locked?
No.
Yeah, see, that's my question. What does that
Secure would
mean?
mean like in a zipper
It's gotta have a
inside of the
zipper?
case.
Yeah.
So how do you secure it in a pocket?
Right.
Mine's secured, it's not
can't.
going to fall out right now.
Is it stored in your pocket?
It is, and secured.
Stored
It
and
was-
secured. You're really exceeding expectations.
Where's
there.
your phone?
It's in my pocket.
Let me see how it's secured.
It's secured. It's not going to fall out. And I,
Is it just stuck in your pocket, or do you have it like zipped up in your pocket?
No, it's just sitting in my pocket.
Sitting in.
But I'm sitting
it'd be
on
more
it.
like stored.
It's secured. But administrators, administrators are not jumping to come after kids for dropping cell phones. It fell out. If it's multiple infractions, which I understand in this particular case that we're talking about was like 3rd or 4th,
Okay.
a little different.
Yeah, I think the investigation of the administrator, dean, in the situation.
It wasn't as simple as what it was
Yeah.
made out to be. It didn't just fall out and now she gets hit with discipline.
Okay.
This is the 4th time we've had to talk to you about your phone type thing.
Gotcha.
But-
Thank
but-
you.
But to Mrs. Cunningham, the defining of secured versus stored, to me, if you put it in your pocket, you're storing it in your pocket. Secured has a different level of care to be taken.
Now there's behind some Velcro.
Semantics.
It's not gonna fall out.
Or zipper or snaps.
Well,
buttons.
He's made sure it's
to
not
your
gonna fall
point-
out.
To your
Yeah, I've
point,
ensured that my phone will not fall out wherever it's stored right now or secured on my person.
and you're not a middle schooler, right? So
Correct.
my question, the semantics part of it is what you just said, it's interpretation. And so what I think I heard you say is that we're trying to eliminate the interpretation, but I don't think we've eliminated interpretation. And I don't think that this is going to prevent anybody from going from one teacher to the next teacher and having different expectations for phones either. So I don't know what the point is, if I'm being really honest with you. If the point is to get a consistent understanding of cell phone policy, I feel like that should come from the leadership at the school. Are we trying to tell teachers, like, if you see a phone, you're going to write a referral? Are we trying to tell them, give them a couple of opportunities? Like, that is stuff that probably should be discussed in a PLC setting that probably will differentiate depending on the level of the building, that whether it's K through 5 or 6 through 8 or 9 through 12. I've had upper teachers tell the students, like, I'm not going to dictate to you. You guys are adults and you're great students. I've also had people say, if I see it, you're out the door.
Correct.
And if the point of the cell phone rule is to increase engagement and instruction, then I do think we should be supportive of those conversations. Like, if a teacher says, I don't want to see your cell phone, we should support them in that. So I have lots of feelings about the cell phone, but I don't think this wording, and this is I think we're all kind of in uncharted territory, similar to the AI. That was my question coming up too. But if we're looking at discipline versus non-discipline, there's got to be a complete understanding with full backing with what we say.
Right. And honestly, that's the case with a lot of the discipline codes
Sure.
that we deal with because,
I'm sure.
We disaggregate the data and we see we're getting close to the end of the school year. And you can see where one school, their focus really is like tardy sweeps because they have this many referrals. And
Right.
another one is cell phone infractions. They've focused on that year. It just becomes an administrative focus depending site to site. So
I don't think the students have as much a problem with it as the parents do when they get disciplined.
yeah.
Okay. So
Mike.
what did you just say?
Right. I agree with you that semantics are still within this, the way that we wrote it. So I don't know that, to me, I'm with you that secured means like it's not going to fall out. I wouldn't put my pocket secured. I did drop a phone in a toilet at Walmart once from my back pocket.
No, that was not secured.
It wasn't secure.
But it was in my pocket, which is your definition of secured. So it's just
For me.
interesting. So what did I just say? I don't know. Summarize it for me.
Oh, no, actually, Mrs. Cunningham started it.
I'm sorry, and you know what? I forgot. I do have another one. It's not about the cell phone.
Wait. So are y'all going to go back and rethink what you put here? Is that what we're asking?
I don't think it matters what the word is, to be honest.
That was my position on it.
Yeah.
It was, to me, it didn't matter if it was stored or secured. I think, well, what I know is that our schools have done a good job of coming together and what does this mean for us? They've developed the discipline ladders that were
Correct.
adopted through the teacher advisory group, and all of those are in play.
Good.
And so there is some consistency within a school typically, and across the district as middle schools met together through those
Yes.
committees to talk about developing these ladders. And I think that
Yeah, we are
We're-
starting
we're
to align in with what she's speaking about with our discipline ladder and matrix and all of that. We are getting representation from all schools in that to
they-
develop that, and it's
This year,
it's
they
aligning.
review it again to make sure that they are not going too drastic one way or the other. So it's a working document that we're revising every year, the ladder, so they share it.
Okay, very last question.
No worries.
It states that only high schoolers will use their cell phones during instructional time. Do we no longer have middle schools who utilize cell phones during instructional time?
Correct. Last year, when we were sitting at this moment last year, we were proactively changing to that because then in the summer, the House bill passed where it says that elementary school and middle school are prohibited of use of the cell phone.
During instructional time?
Correct.
Okay, I'm
So-
sorry, what statute was that?
It's-
You can text it, okay?
Yes.
Are you, not during the school board meeting, though?
Yeah, no, later.
I
That's
will
fine.
send an email to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
it is.
Can I ask one
Thank you.
question? Can I ask a question?
I meant Mr.
Yeah.
Dodd.
Oh, go, Mr. Duff. You're next.
Oh, well, if it's related to that or something.
No.
Oh,
Move it
okay.
on.
All right. Well, I have a couple questions then.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about AI for just a quick second. And I'm honing in really on the non-academic use of it. So students can't use AI to modify or distribute false or misleading depictions of students. And so my wondering here is sometimes you get, I don't know, student groups they get together and let's say the football players are all making themselves use AI to look like superheroes or something like that, or somebody's trying to eliminate somebody's cast from somebody's arm, right, in a picture. Or how about, let's say, Instagram with a dog filter, right? Suddenly everybody in the picture looks like a dog, right? So none of that would be allowed under this, regardless of
Well-
whether it's malicious or whether it's consensual or any of
No,
those.
it is, if it lands on the bullying harassment, if the victim is feeling harassed or bullied or threatened by that Instagram, by that,
Right.
then it comes on the code of conduct.
Right.
And
So the
after an
the bullying
investigation.
part is included in there. But the way I read this first line is that you can't distribute any false or misleading depictions of a student or regardless. So like group of friends, right? They
Yeah,
all,
no.
Hey, let's make ourselves look like dogs using this whatever the filter. Ha ha, you got ears and a tongue hanging out, and then they text that picture to their friends. That's essentially AI created.
You want to phone a friend?
And
Yeah.
and clearly in that context, it was not malicious, right? They've got the consent of everybody in the picture, but you know, kids use AI all the time now to make their group of friends. I don't know.
And
As I
will
mentioned, look
talk
like
to-
superheroes. For
Yeah, I
instance.
will talk to IT. I think that if we put something in the code of conduct that said that hasn't been, it's not consent, it's not consensual, because I can be part of that to make me look taller or buffer or
Right.
nice,
Yeah, yeah.
but we can probably put that, then that says, there is no consent by the
Yeah, I think when I'm interpreting that, I think the intent of this policy, we're looking against the things that are distributed non-consensually, or the things that maybe would be conceived as potential bullying or harassment, or doing something in a derogatory manner. But I guess
So maybe something as simple as without mutual consent, students are prohibited. Boom, boom, boom.
yeah, maybe that's
Correct.
it.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, that makes sense, the other part, right? Like, if I'm part of it, I'm not violating the code of conduct if we're doing something that
Yeah, maybe in a theatrical production, and we're creating, some sort of playbill for that, and suddenly
Yeah.
I want to AI a background of me, or something. I don't know that.
I think
I think there are responsible uses of it, right? And then there are some
Yeah.
that cross the line into what would
Correct.
be really a code of conduct violation in my mind. My other wondering is many of the offenses, as we get towards the back of the code of conduct, some of them have stipulations that they're reported to law enforcement.
Correct.
I guess all of those must be driven from state rules or CESR or something along those lines.
Assessor
Right?
3 years ago, yes.
So is there anything that might prohibit us from deciding that we want to report all of these to law enforcement? For instance, so as I'm thinking about tobacco and vaping violations that are occurring in bathrooms in a school, from what I understand, some administrators will just take the device and send the kid back to class, and maybe there may or may not be even any discipline that goes with that. Sometimes there is discipline that goes with that, and sometimes it gets reported to law enforcement. We're all over the board on what happens with that.
Yeah.
And so
So if
I'm just wondering.
If the code says that you must report or consult with the law enforcement, that was given by CESR about 3 years ago, that they changed all that, and they put up, we update the code of conduct that year. So they should be, they must consult law enforcement if it's one of those.
Right. So
If it's not, the assistant, the discipline officer has the right, like, if they believe that it could bring, they could bring law enforcement at any time to consult on them, on any code whatsoever. It doesn't have to be only assessors.
Yeah, I guess my wondering is if Joe and I sat in his office one day and pulled up the Halo reporting of one of our high schools and the vape violations in a bathroom, and there were just hundreds. There were literally like hundreds of alerts that thing was sending off. But then when we look at the actual reporting or findings, there's like 2 violations for the whole week, and you say, what is happening here? And I'm very familiar with some of the students who've been in those bathrooms, and they say, oftentimes the administration will come in and they'll take the device and send the kid back to class, and then they say, well, gosh, why is the penalty greater for being late to class than it was to be vaping in the bathroom?
Yeah.
And so my wondering is, how do we create some teeth around that, where the administration can't just take the device and send them back to class? Instead, they have to actually address that when that happens.
Well, the administrators, by having CESR, they did the certified assessor disciplinary officers. They should be doing every CESR, it doesn't matter what, they should be doing. If he meets the definition of tobacco, they should be carrying on with the discipline or the coding. The discipline, the outcome of the discipline might be different, but the coding. We meet with the assistant principals, deans, every July to train them, to revise, to remind, to say it again. And I will make sure that I have a slide that says the CESR, it doesn't matter what it is. If we have a knife, it's a knife. It doesn't matter gray. If it's a tobacco, it's a tobacco. It doesn't matter what it is. And we have to follow, because that will bring down the problems of, well, the AP saw this person didn't get a referral. So yes, I will revise that. But yes, they should know, all of them should know that they have to, that's the code, and the CESR is, and they can call me and say, hey, Carlos, is this tobacco or not? I will revisit advanced ideas. But if it's tobacco, it's tobacco. If the law enforcement or the babe said that it's tobacco, there's not a warning. And
Yeah, I guess the problem is they don't have to turn those over to law enforcement based on this code of conduct. And so, if the law enforcement catches them, then they'll get the citation for it. But if the AP catches it, they might just say, well, the popular phrasing is, put away your whiteout and go back to class. That's not whiteout.
Yeah.
So, but that's what's happening. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, maybe this is beyond a code of conduct, maybe this is a different sort of,
it's more about
it's about,
following the CESR rules of,
Yeah.
if the kid broke the CESR rule,
right.
this is what have to happen.
Okay.
And again, because we meet with all of them or most of them, trying to say as many times as we can, that we need to follow the assessors, and if they broke assessor rule, or any rule, but definitely the assessor, we have to follow suit on that regard.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Dr. Luke?
I only have one question, and it's maybe more of a statement than a question, but you had mentioned that the IT department, who was amazing educational partners in regards to professional development with the use of AI in the classroom, but is our curriculum and instruction department, is that department looking at doing some teacher training? Everybody is nodding. Okay, I just didn't want it to just fall in that world. I think we probably even have some teachers that have really embraced it and are doing amazing things. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Thanks.
I've got no comment, so good.
Thank you. Oh,
Thanks, board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now then, we'll have wellness way discussion with Mrs. Randall.
Then we skip the
Huh?
student progression.
Oh, excuse me, you're not? Stay where you are. Student progression plan? Francis, sorry. Morning.
I'm just going to let Francis start. He's here for support and answer questions.
Hi, good morning, board and Ms. Cornegie. Here for my annual student progression plan updates for the 26-27 school year. Hopefully you all received the revision summary as well as the whole doc that was redlined. I did notice one revision and didn't end up redlined in my printout. I don't know at this point if it got to yours or not either in the middle school section, but when I get there, we'll address that. House Bill 1279 was signed late Thursday or sometime Friday. There are revisions in there that will most likely need to make it to the student progression plan. One was simple around language around identified deficiencies in K4 and involving making sure that the New World's reading curriculum is used with those students or introduced. Another one of note that definitely I'll have to add some language in here once it's decided is the uniform weighting of courses among districts. So when we get to that, whatever the state decides will be the uniform weight, we would need to change ours. If ours is not in line currently with what that is, I have a feeling it's probably not. But I don't know if they're going to pick a 4.5 for honors and a 5 for AP, A school enrollment, or if they're going to pick a 5 and a 6. I don't know which way the state's going to go. We currently do 4, 5, 6. And if they do 4.55, then we would have to change that notation in the student progression plan and then look at how does that affect all the things. So that language I read this morning, I was like, oh, okay. So that's something that we'll have to address most likely when that gets determined, if we're outside of whatever the state decides. So those are the couple things that I just scanned quickly today when I got back in office. As you know, we do this based on statute. All those different statutes that get passed every year and all the different laws is what gets re-included into this, and that's why we update it annually, besides just changing it for our different practices and procedures as a district. This is our Student Progression Plan Committee. They all do a great job of going back through this document every year, finding all the different things that we've just not seen after we've read it 40,000 million times, or making actual updates to our policies. So as far as non-substantive edits, throughout you'll see grade level clarifications and cohort year updates. You know, now things will say starting 23-24 school year as opposed to 22-23 when you think of those ninth grade cohorts. The links to the handbooks have been updated as those links change within the systems. And then the language has been changed for clarity. We found a lot of capitalization errors this year, so I changed all those and fixed those, so I didn't make that in your giant, massive document. And then the updated tables for the statewide assessments concordance scores. We did kind of go into that a little bit in the change document, so we'll kind of talk through those. One thing that was reflected throughout, and I referenced this last year, and I didn't change it last year because I didn't have a name of said finalizing document for students who formerly would have earned a certificate of completion. The state eliminated that language in terms of that piece of paper. But everything else associated with that piece of paper did not change. So they actually just changed, they just took away the name and they changed the withdrawal codes. So for the purpose of the student code of, student progression plan, I changed it to High School Credit Completion Award. That's what we decided to call it. And then this is what we're having created for each school because we no longer can use our former certificate of completion that we would order from our diploma agencies. So through College and Career Readiness, we created our own piece of paper that will be distributed now for students who earn the former certificate of completion because the language is still there that a student who completes their credits, all their credits and GPA, but haven't passed those assessments would earn a High School Credit Completion Award and still be able to do that 5th year. That language did not change in statute. Do the 5th year to either get that 2.0 GPA if that's what they're missing, or assessments if that's what they're missing for that purpose. They can still participate in graduation if they've met the other eligibility criteria for participating in graduation. That didn't change. So really, all that changed is the name when it all came down to it. So that's everywhere in here. That the certificate of completion is referenced in many, many, many different pieces and parts of the student progression plan. So when you see that, that's what that means in a nutshell. So I think he's going to get the summary up for me now. Yay. So the first part, these aren't really substantive changes, but it was a lot of red and green, and so I thought I would just make sure that we knew that it was really just we changed the names. So the access for ELLs, it's called the WIDA access. We just corrected the name of that assessment. The FAIR test is gone, so that has been removed. The next piece, the STAR, so we coordinated screening and progress monitoring. We just gave it its real name, which is the STAR FAST PM 1 through 3. When you think about the VPK through grade 2, all right, so we just made the name correct. Continue in that same vein, we made the name correct. It's the FAST PM 1 and 2, and then we just kind of gave some clarifications of what those are. FAST PM 3, and then the best writing. It all, the best writing and the PMs all used to be kind of in this one red lined out thing that we have there. I don't know why it's not all lined out. It should all be lined out. Everything that's red should be lined out on my screen. And then we just put the correct names in and descriptions. But again, it's not really new. It's just like making it clearer in this document. Just clarifying that PSAT and MSQT is grade 9 through 11. I'm not really sure why I said grade 11 TBD before. And then iReady Math is the only thing used for progress monitoring, not reading. So that's why reading is struck through on that one. And then finally, Amir, that should all be struck. I don't know why it's not struck on my screen. Is no longer used for assessment or for 3rd grade promotion. It's Edmentum that's being used for 3rd grade promotion summative assessment. So remember, this is just the assessment piece of the calendar, not calendar document. After that, the only real changes that we had this year are in this section, the famous grading policy section that we adjust this paragraph every single year. But before that, and actually you can see it better here. So this is the middle school section. What has existed for a long time, since I've been doing the student progression plan, we've had some specific language around long-term assignments and how much can or cannot be reduced in terms of those being turned in late. So it was brought up that when you think about daily assignments and you can't grade homework, work, there wasn't really any sort of parameter around how much could technically be taken off for being late or not. So we just wrote language that makes those two things match. So long-term assignments, you have all the language there, and I changed will to may. Not all teachers take off points for things being late. They may. And then we added the daily assignment sentence there, that any work or assignment submitted after the due date may result in a grade reduction no more than 10% for each day not turned in. The language matches, it puts a parameter in place. Maybe we'll keep some of the differences, thinking about the cell phone policy from class to class to class, and every class you could have a different rule. The same thing happens with assignments sometimes, where teachers may take off more or less work. So we tried to put a parameter that matched the long-term assignment parameter that was in place. That was a recommendation. That is repeated in all three sections. Even though elementary didn't have a long-term assignment piece, I still went ahead and added that same language to the elementary section under just the grading policies right there within. So that language is written 3 times in there in each section, and that's new. The other new language, because again, that paragraph 5 that we like to tweak every year, and rightly so, right? As we work on making sure we're doing what's best for students while also protecting everyone else in the world, we added the line, thinking of redos, right? This is that policy. In collaboration with school administrators and colleagues teaching similar courses, teachers will devise redo policies appropriate for their teaching assignment, including timelines for redos. So, again, thinking about, and that's not even right, in collaboration with school. The feedback we get, well, it might be different for this class or this class. So what we would like for teachers to do, and we worked with the union on, actually the union recommended this language for us, LCEA, is just thinking about how can we make sure redos are a practice, that students have access to that, but that teachers have a say in like what that might look like. So if we are a 4th grade team, right, like we're as the 4th grade team with our admin collaboration, we are gonna set like what redos look like for us. Is there a timeline for that? What does that look like? So each team or department will be able to like set some best practices for what that looks like for them and for their students. So that will give probably help us with some of the ambiguity sometimes where we get, well, I want to redo this thing 50 times. They'll be able to set some of those guidelines and parameters for their department, for their team, for their students. With the idea that redos are required, like we have to allow that for students. So we thought that would help us kind of all the way around, help our teachers feel a little bit more empowered to like help make some of their policies and procedures, set some of their timelines, as well as making sure that we are providing those opportunities for students as well, because it goes both ways. Anything to that?
Not right now.
No? And then,
Can we stop right there for
Yes.
this one? Does anybody have any comments about this? Because this one, there was a whole lot of discussion about.
a lot of discussion about this always.
Anybody have any opinions? Or-
We all probably have opinions.
We,
Well, now
yes.
I just asked for it. Okay, I don't have an opinion.
I don't have an opinion on this one either.
I have an opinion. But it goes in with the others, so I don't know if now's the appropriate
Okay, so we
time
wanna
for me
wait
to
for a
ask
minute
my
then?
question.
I can do mine, I don't mind. I think the only thing that's still really an outlier for me is I'm thinking about when it gets close to the final grading, like the end of the grading period. And so like there's an opportunity for them to participate in a redo opportunities or reteaching some intervention, and then they're going to retake it. And what if it's 2 weeks before the final, and where's the opportunity to do that? So-
So that's something they could be working out, like as their departments, but technically you can grade change. Like there's a whole other section about grade changing. So if a student was to have the opportunity to fix something, let's say that was the week before, right, and they still have need time, a teacher can, twofold, grades are never due until almost a week after grading technically ends.
Yep.
But then teachers can grade change. Like there's a whole process for turning in a grade change if a student were to correct a grade or do a redo that would positively impact their grade.
And then on the other side of that, what about the student that didn't redo the work that was done the first or second week of the 9 weeks, and now it's the ninth and they want to submit it? That's a problem.
And that's where we hear from teachers.
Correct.
From the teacher side, that's what their frustration is.
Correct.
I think we do say quarter is realistic, but if they haven't done the work. Now, order to do the redo, there has to be work done. So if student has not done any relearning, then you don't have to provide a redo. So I think that's the language I'd use. If students didn't now, I think hopefully that's on a limited case. I think I would call in my administration if I get a habitual student that's not doing any work and then trying to grade everything at the end, or turn everything at the end.
They have support for not providing an opportunity for a redo in that
Right.
situation.
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
So what would, because it doesn't make any sense, if you have a student who habitually doesn't do the work,
Yeah.
that, where's that intervention? Because you have this expectation they can do this redo or turn in late, but where are they getting the help? If the teacher recognizes they're not turning in, but the child can at the end turn it all in at one time, I guess.
Yeah, that's a whole separate process outside of the redo. So like, what I hear you saying is that's a separate issue. And that
It
is
is
a separate issue. And that's where you're
But
going
it
to
kind of
involve.
falls into the same expectation that,
That's where you involve your administration, your school counselors, your different assistants that you have on campus that might fall into an MTSS process of, why isn't the student turning in their work? So there are other processes that we would be using to engage students and figure out, like, what's going on, why aren't we turning things in?
Mr. Mathias, I think we have model schools that have actually structured something. Some have like a Google form that a teacher fills out, and it might be attendance, it might be turning in late work, it might be doing any work, that they actually have a committee that talks about individual students. Now, do we catch every student? I don't think we do yet, but I think that would be the goal. I mean, we are about every student that we serve. It might be coordinating with a parent. I think we do have a system in place for that. I live with one that's 16 that can't turn anything on time. That's extremely frustrating. And I think he has a supportive family, right? But it's still that trying to get him to do the work to turn things in. So I'm a little bit afraid of this late policy of 10% because I can't get anything to him to turn on time. It's in his backpack and it still doesn't get to the teacher. So I'm truly saying it is a work in progress with every family and every student.
but explain to me how the 10% works, by the way, because is that typically how an assignment, like if it's an English assignment,
Most of them do a letter grade. I mean,
It's a letter
we've got
grade,
several
right?
things that are late, and that's not even in our policy, but a teacher does take points off for something being in not on time. Again, teachers want to teach students responsibility. That comes up over and over again. So I think this whole, like, can I wait to the last minute to turn everything in? That isn't best practice. That's not what we're trying to encourage. We're trying to encourage that students, if this was important for you to learn, that they've learned it, and we haven't really got it right yet.
but you also, and this is a little bit personal because my daughter-in-law is a professor, college level. And they have those same issues, by the way, with college kids. But for her spirit, because she gives every one of them until midnight, the last day of the last
Right.
second, because she wants to inspire them to learn English literature,
Right.
not to be punitive.
Right.
So there's that window. I mean, I'm reaching, but I can also see where kids, that if they have no expectation to be able to pass a course, they give up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And the redos are a burden on the teacher.
Yeah.
So, but what's good for kids?
Yeah, we're trying to inspire a spirit of hope. Even if I haven't learned it yet, I still have the opportunity. But we're also not trying to teach lazy students that don't do anything until the end and still can pass.
But don't you think that lazy student still has, we just haven't found the right chord?
I trust that the case, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Listen, yes, I trust that eventually it will click. I mean, yeah, that is very, it's real to me. I mean,
I also think that some students, I think children in general, from the age of 2 to the age of 20, know their limits. Just like they know if mom says, no, I'm going to go ask dad. Like, they will push and push and push. And so it's not a lack of being inspired. It's not a lack of having boundaries. It's literally I know I don't have to do this work because this teacher will let me turn it in late. They are so smart. That's what bothers me sometimes. It's not the students that you're talking about, which is the hardest part of this. It's the other ones that we, Gabby, see at the post-secondary level. We are training them to be teachers, and they're submitting stuff so late that you're like, my always response is, well, how would you handle this situation with a student in your classroom?
That's right.
But how are we allow them to do it? So there's different students. There are different students that we're all speaking about. I am irritated by the students who take advantage of the system
right.
because it's an opportunity for them. And then it creates more work for teachers. Parents are going crazy. So those are the students that I feel like we're not doing a service for by allowing them to continue.
And I think it's really challenging to figure out how exactly to land a policy that captures that. Because in my house, I have kids who are not using this policy to take advantage of the system. Instead, they're using the policy as a chance to further their learning and to create more mastery. But I know there are students who are.
I have one that's taking advantage of it.
Then you got, well, I don't know what kind of parenting is going on in her household, but we got it exactly.
She is a genius, actually.
We got some other things wrong, but this, I guess this one's going all right for us. All right, we got sidetracked. So my question is really about the best practices, and I love the idea of developing best practices, and I love the idea of having teacher voice in this, right? To figure out how do we get to a system that that is generating more mastery for students, increased learning opportunities, that we don't give up, that you scored low, and I'm not just going to put the 25 in the grade book and move on and not care whether or not you've learned it, right? But at the same time,
we still have that going on, so it's a work in
I
progress with teachers
know.
and on students.
I know.
Continue.
But will this best practices potentially look different in 4th grade versus 6th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, ELA versus science versus social studies versus an elective? And I'm nervous that that's going to be all over the board. That
already is
suddenly,
all over the board.
Right. But in the absence of more specific language, right? That I've had kids who have had teachers who say the redo has to occur the following day. Well, there was like 0 time for actual relearning in there, right? Or the redo has to occur in flex time. Well, if you were absent on flex time, or you had 2 flex times to go to and you went to this other one, sorry, there's no relearning opportunity for you anymore. And therefore, you cannot do the redo. Or, it becomes so regimented and specific. And so my wondering is, is the ELA team at a high school going to say, this is our best practice. It has to be occurring in a flex time. You've missed it, you lose out. Versus the science says, oh, you get a week. Versus the math says, well, you get 2 days to go home and do some test corrections. And so what does that look like?
Well, I think we put in there by department or by team.
Yeah.
I'm trusting, we would like to see by school. So I think that's that next step. Administration's involved. If I'm at X school, this is the way that we do business. And then eventually, we may get to as a district. But first, we have to challenge, if this is our school, how are we going to run? Just like when teachers show up late, how do we handle that as a school system? So can we just honor that we actually have something that supports kids?
Yeah.
Not every district has an opportunity for kids to learn, so I'm very proud of the fact that we have that. So let's recognize one, and all we're trying, every year we come to the table trying to make it better. And what we're trying not to do is have a manual that everybody has to follow, because we do want teachers to have some autonomy when it comes to what happens in the classroom. But as far as the redo, now adding administration is a great collaboration with LCA, just to be able to have what are teachers saying, what is their frustrations, and we haven't definitely reached every aha for teachers yet. I know I didn't answer your question. but-
Well, okay, so the first few words here, it talks about being in collaboration with school administrators.
Yes.
So the school administrator is going to presumably have heard the discussion from their various teams and said, yes, that sounds like a great plan that meets the spirit of this, versus y'all just do it and I'll just sign off. Well, because teachers devise the
It's in
redo.
true collaboration, and we want feedback from teachers, what works, what doesn't. The intent is not to give 90 redos. I
Right,
feel like when
100%.
I heard teachers do that, that's not the spirit of what's happening, right? So we continue to inform leaders on best practice, what would I have, how do I coach through that conversation with my teams? And just continuing to receive feedback from teachers. What are they saying? What are their frustrations? And the other one that we hear are a student that tries the first time and gets a 90, right? How is that fair to the student that had 3 opportunities to get that 90? We hear that same argument, and I don't have a great answer. The bottom line is, it's such a competitive world we live in. We want all students to be successful in their learning. That's the message, so that's what we're working toward. So we like the feedback. So I don't take, I want to honor the work that's been done, because there has been a lot of great work. So the feedback that you guys provide us does not fall on deaf ears, and how do we adjust this policy to fit all students and teachers for our district?
And I think the hope also in some of this language is we've created this language every year with feedback, but the idea for the actual different teams and departments to sit and go, okay, this is with the admin, right? Because I think the admin piece of it will hopefully help one of the concerns of if I have 7 teachers and they all have something crazy different, right, in terms of their policies, we're hoping the administration involvement will get to more of a school level but the teacher's having input, so it's not like I think it will help the teachers feel more empowered with it and then be able to set what they determine for their department is a realistic expectation. So it's not everything from first week trying to redo the last because now I saw my grade, right? Like setting some of those things in place to help students manage their time hopefully more successfully, as well as help teachers manage this policy more successfully in a way that is truly in the spirit of doing what's best for kids.
And I think doing it timely, it meets the spirit, right? Like I shouldn't wait 8 weeks from this other, just because I see the grade at the end of the semester. I should have been motivated to relearn, right? Because I didn't master it that. At the same time, I struggle with the teacher who says the redo happens the following day.
Well, and then we also have teachers that say you can redo that at the end of the semester because you missed that day of school. So
Yeah, right.
There's every gamut of expectation out there. So from students to teachers to schools, so it's very varied. And again, I think that the conversations in the groups and the teams will get us on the page of everyone feeling a bit more involved in the process and doing what's best for their kids that year. We anticipate this to be an annual conversation that might adjust as they learn about their kids and their parents and their students.
So if a team says it's best practice that we not use any instructional time during the school day for these redos or relearnings, and we require you to come in before school, is that an acceptable best practice?
I think we can require that. I think that isn't a best practice. I mean, we understand families don't have those opportunities. That's why we built in that during the school day. There is an excuse for that. There isn't.
Okay.
So,
The only negative I've heard, and I think it's more important for the child to learn the content and then move on, but I've heard from teachers that said that have been required to change grades. And I just want to make sure that the kids are actually having to do the work and that we're not telling someone, you have to do this.
I would agree. We're never going to say students shouldn't do the work, right? Yeah,
Right.
they need to do the work.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we got sideways, continue.
I don't think there is anything else. Let me just keep going.
Oh, I thought there was another, one more little part.
And then the rest is no changes.
Okay,
So this year
do we
was
have any
very-
comments on that?
This year was very, we didn't have many statute changes yet. Well, of course, now they're coming. There weren't a lot of changes. We just like that one, and this paragraph will come back next year with some other tweak that we've, found out as we've had collaboration with teachers and admins and kind of seen what that looks like. We may come up with some language that we might want to more universally apply and put in addition to those collaborations. So this is going to come back every year as we just continue to do its best for students while also supporting teachers and knowing the load that is as we work towards the student successes.
But we also share what schools have put into practice that have been successful with other schools. So I think from that side, we do try to collaborate from school to school. If they found a system that works for their school, how do we share that for other schools?
Super. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have Wellness Way discussion. Mrs. Randall.
Here's the presentation. Redo the redo.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to discuss Wellness Way yet again. This is Natalie and Jessica are handing out copies of the presentation. I apologize for the kind of last minute nature of this, but it is ever developing. And so I think we'll hopefully have a lot more discussions about this over the next year or so before we can kind of finally get to a resolution. So this is a site that Lake County Commissioner Parks and Kathleen Dial have been working very hard to get this developer to the table. And so, we've been working through the process, kind of getting to a certain point, and I think it's time to come talk to you about it. So this is a site, the Panther Run. If you remember a couple of years ago, GT Homes made the news by buying up a large portion of Wellness Way. And so this site is owned by GT Homes. They had come to us through Commissioner Parks back in late last year. And so after some discussion, we provided them with a letter of intent by the board, or I'm sorry, by the superintendent, to just go ahead and explore the options on this site. So it's about 50 acres. Discussion is that the developer would provide grading, access roads, and utility connections. We did, at the time, we went ahead and ordered 2 appraisals, and then we hired Schenkel Schultz and Klima Weeks to do just some preliminary site assessment. I want to note that does not lock us in any way into using them when we get to final design. That will still be a competitive process. This was sheerly for preliminary site assessment. And the developer has been very cooperative. They provided their geotechnical analysis that they had already done to help us with that assessment. So just some orientation. This is kind of Wellness Way overall. The plan obviously kind of changes as developers come in, but this gives you a picture of what it could look like. The red box there on the, I don't know if the thing works, not very well. The red box is kind of the indicator of where this site would be. So if you're familiar, the west side there is US 27. The east side, where it goes into gray, is actually Orange County. Then you have the connector between the 429 and US 27 running kind of horizontally across that. As you move forward up, you've got Schofield Road coming off of Trout Lake, and then you've got Wellness Way that runs across east-west. And then on the west side of this particular property is the 455 extension. It's Hartle Road, and then it goes down, eventually it connects down to just south of Sawgrass Bay Boulevard, Serenoa area. And then just below where the road kind of curves in the gray area is actually Sawgrass Bay Elementary. And I'm sorry, my pointer doesn't work very well. So that's kind of an orientation of where we're looking at. This is a closer version of that. Again, one of the things is that, yes, this site is on the county boundary. I always say it's not ideal, but I have discovered there's nothing that is ideal in Wellness Way for us. So one of the things that we look at is that it actually has very good road access, right? So you have access to all of that development that's going on north of the connector road, and then actually through the 455 connector. Once that goes all the way through, you'll have access to that whole area around Sawgrass Bay. Students coming from Four Corners or all the way down from like Lake Point Academy area would have to go on 27 until they kind of wind back through 455. But for the most part, it's actually very good access. And when we run the kind of draft student attendance zone, it's actually in a very good location as far as that north-south balance of where students are. We had always kind of said the attendance boundary would be somewhere right around that Schofield, Troutwell Lake area. And so it kind of puts it on the north end, but, relatively center. And then this is just an indicator from the developer's engineer of where the potential high school site could be. One of the things I want you to look at is that if you see it, it's that block off to the right side of this map, but there is a round circle in the middle of that. That is actually a pond, an existing pond. So that'll be important as we go through this process, right? So this is the a potential high school test fit layout that the developer's planner actually made. And so they show the high school kind of wrapping around this pond. Again, not ideal. So, but, you know, their point was you could fit on here. You'd have kids having to walk back and forth across the pond. It just becomes very awkward.
Water polo.
It's kind of a Jesus
Around
thing.
the pond, I guess, not across it. Unless we put a bridge across there. But, you know, so it's, again, not ideal, but one of the things that they did show is that Old YMCA Road is going to be extended across the north side of this. They will be, you'll see the Hartle Road 455 extension on the west side. And then they would actually put in a secondary access point. So the primary access would be on Old YMCA Road. A secondary access point would come in kind of south of that intersection and allow us to have a separated bus loop. Okay? So I had Schenkel Schultz take the geotechnical information that they already had and do a site assessment. It's on board docs. I'm not sure whether it was printed and given to you, but it's available. There you go. That's their preliminary site assessment. Again, it's very limited based on the geotechnical data that they already had. So basically, what they found that concerns them is that pond area that's in the middle, right? What they also found is that pending more in-depth geotechnical analysis, which they recommend, is that they think that that pond actually could be moved, which is an interesting concept, right? So there is cost associated with that, but if it does, it opens up this site to a fairly square 50-acre site, which makes it a lot more usable than it would be with the pond right in the middle of it. So that's what these next two pages, this page specifically kind of talks about. And then the next page lists everything that they say, you know, this is basically standard due diligence. There is some more in-depth kind of geotechnical data that they would ask for, including some ground penetrating radar. And so basically they want to confirm that, yes, the pond is actually movable. And, you know, that is very time consuming, right? So, so basically none of this is, I'm not going to come to you with a contract, well, maybe, we'll talk about whether we come to you with a contract, but all of this takes a long time to do that assessment, to work through this whole process. The other thing, so this is the test fit that Schenkel actually did that kind of shows how it could work if the pond is moved. We'd actually probably flip that pond to the east side, which opens up the access to that secondary bus loop. But basically, this is based on a high school that Osceola County is currently building on approximately 45 to 47 acres. So that's the prototype that they were working with. And then this is the appraisal. So we got two appraisals. The initial, Pinnell and Carpenter initially came back at a price of $125,000. And then they contacted me about a week or two later and they said, you know what, we have looked at some other comps in this area. We think that we were low. Do you want us to reassess it? I said, yes, go ahead and reassess it. Because I thought they were probably a little low. The other appraiser used a different methodology and came back at $625,000. So
This isn't oceanfront, this is pondfront.
well, and
Did I know that? Movable pondfront.
that was part of my concern about both of these appraisals, right? So Pinnell and Carpenter stayed very much to the Wellness Way area. They initially started off with some land that wasn't really comparable to this. It didn't have the same development allowances, but it was within Wellness Way. The other one was nowhere near Wellness Way, right? There wasn't a site that was within 20 miles of Wellness Way. And so they basically focused primarily on development allowances and what you could build on that site. But they were kind of all over the place. So I'm not sure I totally trust either of these, right? So here's some of my possible next steps. And there are other sites in play. There are other things that we're pursuing, that we're looking at. But I am also very concerned about trying to go ahead and get something locked up, right? So I'd like to kind of keep all of these things in play as we keep moving forward. So just on this particular site, and of course, you know, Commissioner Parks has also been very involved in keeping this developer in play. And so I also want to respect the work that the county has done on keeping something in play. So there's a couple of possible next steps, right? So if we want to keep considering this site, we can look at the appraisals, focus on that specifically. I would say, rather than just go out and get one more appraisal, I would actually encourage us to get 2 appraisals, right? And then we can throw out the highest and lowest and look at those values. Again, I don't have firm confidence in either of the appraisals that we've already gotten. We can pursue a contract, and the developer did come in and give me a figure, which was the average of the original 2 appraisals. And so, you know, we could look at doing a contract with that with a very adequate due diligence period, right? I think there's a lot of work that we need to do to make sure that this site actually would work for us. We would need Sands King studies. There's a certain time period where you can do Sands King studies, and so we would need to make sure that we had that due diligence period. Or we could do a combination of the 2 things, right? So we could also do a contract that basically says, here's our due diligence period, here's everything that we're going to look at, and here's what we need to do. But we're also going to get 2 additional appraisals, and those need to confirm that value of that site. And then, you know, there's still, like I said, there are other things in play, and so if there are other things that you would like me to consider, then I am here to get your thoughts and see what the best way to move forward is with this.
Okay, board members?
Yeah, Kelly, a couple questions. Thank you for the overview, and we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but I want to confirm the developers offer the average of the 2. Is that the 125 and the 625 or the 200
That
and the
was his
625?
initial, yes, his kind of initial offer, and that was if we came to contract pretty quickly. So
Right.
it was I want to say it averaged to like 370.
Right. And I think you shared with me that if we didn't accept that route and went with another appraisal, then his wishes changed a little bit, that
Yes, you know, he is interested in, so because of the pressure that the county is putting
Right.
on him, he is interested in moving forward with, you know, something as quickly as possible. So basically, he had told me that he, if it took longer to come to contract, then he was gonna lock in at 400 an acre.
well, respectful, he also doesn't have any other uses for this site yet either, so it's not like he's really trying to do us a favor. He's trying to offload it too, which I can understand. And I think the other thing worth discussing too is I agree, I think we need to at least pursue locking in something for due diligence sooner than later, in light of all the work that's been done, but also cognizant of the other potential properties that are out there that Kathleen and the county continue to work on. If you can highlight those just a little bit for the board.
I'm afraid I don't have a map up here, but, you know, there's a couple of other things that are going forward. And, you know, I'm hesitant to put anybody on the spot, but I know that Mr. Vanderberg has been working with some potential on the large chunk of land that Orange County owns there. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
prepared to
no,
talk about that.
there's not a ton of progress there. What I was hoping for at this point was at least now we've got some sort of a number that we can go back to either the legislator, whoever else, and say that, okay, at 375, we're looking at $17, $18 million just to purchase this property. And is that worth putting a little more pressure on Orange County to hopefully get some land back that is in Lake County and has a public use in Lake County that wouldn't cost $18 million in any stretch? Kathleen Dial from the county also has some other property in mind off of Schofield Road, a little more in the heart of True Wellness Way without a 6-acre pond in the middle that may or may not be able to be moved, which still, I'm wrapping my head around that. We can move it left, we can move it right, we can move it wherever we want it. Can we just move it off the property entirely? Obviously, I know we can't do that, but I don't know. There's not a lot of great choices here, but I'm hesitant to also just completely move forward with this one outside of trying to do some true due diligence and know that if it doesn't work, that we're going to have the trust and confidence to back out and find something that would be more conducive for a 50-year build. So not a lot of answers to this point, but this does, I think, move us a little bit further down the board of what's the next step.
Sure.
So not really a question, more than just comments.
We also have John O'Grady is in the audience. He is with Florida Blueprint Schools, and so he had met with us last week and discussed, some other options. I don't know that any of those are very far along as well. This is, right now, the one that we have that seems most likely, right? But I also think even going into contract, doing some due diligence on it, again, it may not end up being a good site for us. And so, we would just need to make sure that that contract has the ability to end on our terms.
Mrs. Cunningham?
Yeah, I'm done.
I am intrigued by being able to move a pond. Having just recently put in a pond,
It's the opposite.
I got you. I'm aware that they're quite costly. So my concern is actually moving one. I just can't fathom that. I do have a concern about the lack of stability as far as the price. I would really be very cautious about moving forward with a contract at this point, based on the fact that we could do all of this and the property still might not be what we want. So I wouldn't be ready to do a contract.
Mr. Dodd?
All right, so I really struggle on this one because I remember a decade ago going to these Wellness Way meetings and everybody saying, don't worry, we're going to take care of the school district. We'll make sure you get some land donated, right? And that didn't happen. And then it was, oh, we'll get you some land at a real bargain price, and that didn't happen. And then it was like, the only property we have, well, you can build 12 miles of roads and get to it, and well, that's not going to work. So the fact that you've gotten this far along now in a piece of property, I'm like, okay, well, part of me wants to just jump at it. But the other part of me says, at $18.75 million, yikes, right? In our capital plan, did we only set aside like $9 million for?
So
What did that say? I'm
There's
trying to remember.
$10 million in our land
10 million.
acquisition.
I went far off.
I will say, we have a fairly hefty impact fee balance. So as far as having the cash, I'm not particularly concerned about it, right? But it's a lot.
It's a lot. And then potentially, locks us out of future projects that we're going to need to take care of, right? It's a lot for one particular project. Yeah, it's a struggle. How many students are we talking about in this school?
So, so initially we started talking about 1,800. I think, well, we would probably design the school for expandability to 2,200, like we did with actually all of our South County high schools. And they've all kind of physically gotten to that level at this point. Now, East Ridge and South Lake are over that. Lake Mineola kind of runs a little bit high above that, right? So, but I think probably it would be designed for a smaller population initially and then expandable to that larger population.
Yeah. So if we're talking about potentially throwing out these two, well, doing two more, throwing out your highest and lowest, are we expecting that the average would be dramatically different than that 375? Like you had some hunches of like, well, I think this one was too low. I thought this one was too high. Does that put you back at 375?
I don't really know, right? So the county, I think things are changing so quickly in there. So my understanding is that the Expressway Authority is paying about $200,000 an acre for basically raw land, right? that's not the same necessarily as development land. And as they start, as that connect, what makes me very nervous, honestly, is the connector road.
Right.
I live just north of Horizons West, and I know how much development happened once the 429 went down and the recession ended. And all of that Horizons West development came in about 10 years.
Yeah.
And so that makes me very nervous at the speed of this development once it goes through. And I think, do I think costs are going to go down? Probably not, right? I think as utilities, as roads get connected through there, I think they probably will continue to rise.
So what kind of
as they go.
timeline would we be looking at for these other potential properties to know whether they might pan out or not?
What's that? The other potential
Yeah,
properties?
these other
Oh,
pieces.
gosh, it's just.
Kathleen had a meeting last week scheduled with one of the parties that was going to be some more of the decision makers to hopefully get some more clarity on where those next steps could be. So I think that'd be worth a phone call from probably Kelly or myself this week to get an idea of where that one is. That's the more promising one of the two. I mean, as much as I'd love to get the Orange County piece done, that just keeps hitting roadblock after roadblock and nobody really wanting to make that move, even though it still makes all the logical sense in the world.
Yeah.
But Kathleen was hopeful that conversation that she was hoping to have last week would at least let us know how likely that next step would be, which I think would be a more advantageous site at probably a more advantageous price. Or about the same, but just being a lot better location. The county would like this site to really be part of their economic hub. So this is really intended for manufacturing or industrial of some sort. Obviously, they want us to get a high school too, so they're going to do what needs to be done. But the developer is having a harder time than he thought he would. So now it's pushing back on us to put us behind the eight ball when I really don't think we're there
How
yet.
far is the 80 acres that Orange County has from this site?
It's that big green blob in the middle.
let me go back
I mean,
to
the county owns, I think, 2,000 acres, and we're just looking for a sliver. That big green
the
mark
kind of-
right off of Wellness Way, and that 80 acres of wooded area right there to the south of that big green blob above the red areas would work well as well.
Okay, so there's several green blocks.
Yeah.
Which the north part, all that land is
Actually,
Lake County
most of
and
it-
owned by
most of
Orange
it's
County.
green.
I think, yeah. I
It's
was thinking-
2,700
The dark
acres.
green?
Yeah.
So
All of that.
Orange County owns.
So it's just
all
down
of
the road.
this
Yeah.
And this, right? So
Where's
this
the-
is actually their infiltration basins.
Right.
This is OCEA, not OCEA, sorry, the utilities. So, and then they also own this area right here, which is actually heavily pined. So they don't use that actively as part of Conserve 2.
And the pined area is the one we're really interested in.
That's.
We were at one point, but they've got active plans to develop that, and it's been sitting there undone for 40 years. That was part of our
But does it have
conversation with them.
infrastructure to it?
It does not, as of yet, no.
I mean, it's, Schofield, actually, you know what, I take that back. It's north of Schofield. So it's
Right.
about 40 acres north of Schofield.
Yeah.
So there, right now, there's no active connections, there's no active utilities.
Some time ago, a previous board bought some land and there was no access to it, and then ultimately couldn't be used. And we just sold it not too long ago.
Sure.
So,
I think this is a slightly different scenario, though. That still wouldn't be ideal. I agree with you. But that's more in the heart of where more of that everything around it is planned to go. So I would happen to think that some infrastructure will be put around there. And the other
there
property.
is infrastructure at the 50-acre site.
So there will be. His timing is basically similar to our timing. So essentially, we're looking at starting construction in 3 years or so. And so, it would all be part of the contract that basically this 455 extension would need to be done, the old YMCA improvements would need to be done, and that the utilities would be there. You can get to this site right now, but it's not anything that's suitable for a school, better access.
I'm sorry. Mark, were you finished?
I just have anxiety over whether we do something or not do something. I have anxiety either way. I just know that East Ridge is sitting on 2,600 kids. I mean, it is way too many kids for them to properly handle, and we need to relieve that. And I'm nervous if we let this one go, what are the odds of one of these others panning out? Because I've seen over the last decades how many things we thought were going to pan out and then they didn't. And so, but the $18 million
Feeling the
price
same
tag.
anxiety I'm feeling.
But, so
18 million in the big picture is not undoable,
maybe it's not on, right.
right?
Yeah, right.
So, okay.
I mean, the fact is, if I thought it was undoable, I would
Then you
tell you it
wouldn't
was
present it,
undoable,
so-
right? I wouldn't be here.
Okay, well then maybe I'm leaning towards entering into some sort of contract that we can back out of based on due diligence, right?
That was my question.
I mean, so yeah, so if it's, like, there is a lot of geotech work that needs to be done, right? The borings that the developer did, basically, that, like you can read in the preliminary assessment, they went down 25 feet. The Schenkel and Klima Weeks encourage us to go much deeper, right? This whole area is karst topography, which means that it is limestone, it is very subject to sinkholes, to, you know, that kind of thing. So we would want to make sure that we were 100% certain that we are not building on anything that's gonna.
Probably is a single.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said that word.
It's in the report, though. It's in the first 3 pages. Very
It's in the first
clearly,
3
it
pages.
lays that out.
Exactly, yes. And so we would want to make very, very certain that we are not building on something that is going to cause us long-term problems. And so, you know, that would be a big part of our geotech work, as well as the threatened and endangered species. They did give us a preliminary threatened and endangered that basically says that there's nothing really there. So that one doesn't make me as nervous, but the geotechnical work, you know, we need to be 100% certain that this is going to be suitable for a high school before we went into anything. And then, you know, if you want additional appraisals on it, we need to be certain that we can justify that value as well, or that at least we can get within a range that you guys are comfortable with going forward with closing. So, you know, even if we move into a contract, I don't think this would be the last time that you would hear from me on it.
Okay. That's good for me.
So someone who filled in a wetland area on a lot that he was trying to sell, it took me 4 years to get St. John's to sign off
Sure.
on it. So this is not an easy task.
It is not an easy
And so
task.
I don't know about that, and we need to not think about it. I'm very concerned about having an appraisal at what was it?
200.
200, then it goes to 600? Yeah. And did we pay for those?
Sure, yeah.
And so we would pay for 2 more?
They're about $5,000, so it's, you know, $10,000.
But is there any questioning of how did you get to 6, or how did you start at 2? Is there any, like, it seems like such a spread.
That's right.
You know what?
We want a
I
refund
have
from one of them.
discovered over the last 20 years that
$8 million.
appraisal is as
Right.
much an art as it is a science, right? It is how they approach the appraisal and what they use as comps. And so, you know, we had one appraiser who was very locked in on the geographic area, and we had one appraiser who was very locked in on the development allowances for the site. And so they approached them in very different ways and came up with very different results. I think with the revision, I think that probably Pennell and Carpenter is a little closer to the thing, but I think, you know, additional appraisals, again, as much an art as a science, and they approach them different ways, and so.
But it sounds like the developer's willing to go in the middle anyway.
He
right?
was, yeah, he kind of ended in the 375, although we haven't had a conversation since we had the $200,000 revision. So he may be like, well, now that average isn't the same anymore, so.
And even though they're not the same, what did we pay for the elementary site? 125 or 150 an acre?
150.
That's what I thought. And it's not that far away.
Not that far off.
Yeah, 15 acres, right, for that site? Yeah.
So, you know,
And what do we
obviously-
compromise at 50 acres? Because we need 65. So at 50 acres, and does the 50 include the pond?
Yeah, so really
The
45,
50 includes the pond.
So
which
what's
is,
usable?
yeah.
40.
So right now, 45, that kind of wraps around it. So, you know,
So great.
if we're able to reconfigure that pond, right, then you can actually go deeper, and so that
That's what I just said.
recoups some of that land. Yeah.
That's exactly what I just said.
We
Can we
could-
just build a smaller pond deeper? Okay.
Could be our rowing site.
Yeah.
A Magna rowing. program.
Kids just
right
have
in the
a
middle.
long, thin
Yeah,
thing,
dead middle.
Like one of those water
So-
ski ponds.
If we wanted to do our due diligence and we have the ability to back away, and that due diligence would have to be it's going to take a while to sort out. I just told you 4 years to do a little sinkhole thing, wetland thing. So I don't know how long he would hang out.
Probably not 4 years, but
Right.
but I think that we could get some, some assurance or background info. I think that yes, it's there's a process with St. John's that you have to work through. So I think that we could at least have some assurance that that is a possibility before we actually close on the
And
possibility.
do we have any pressure we can apply that he needs these student stations to continue developing?
So he would have to do proportionate share mitigation. That doesn't necessarily, that's just money. So that doesn't necessarily apply that kind of pressure to him. It's, the best honestly, the best pressure that we've been able to do is, through the county. And that's kind of where he's feeling the pressure right now, is that he wants some of this the political issues tied to this tied up before he tries to keep moving forward with
Does
his
anybody have any
entitlement.
conversations with Sean Parks? Because this is his district, right?
I've spoken with Sean about this when we've been at the Wellness Way roundtables with the developer briefly. But I just think I'd want to be cautious. I'm not opposed to the due diligence and going under contract to at least consider. But I think the market has cooled off from when this gentleman bought this property. And I'm not certain that it's not going to continue to cool off or at least slow down the growth of what is coming out this way. So unless this number were to go down a little bit more, I still think it's too high. And with the uncertainty of splitting the difference between the two, he wants an exit. And I don't think we're that desperate to be his exit quite yet unless that number gets better for the size of the site, for the constraints, what we're going to have to deal with. Obviously, still do the due diligence either way. But 250, maybe 300 an acre seems more palatable to me. I know we've got the money in impact fees, but that's still the thought of paying $18 million for land on a site that's really not conducive for what we wanted. It's a tough pill to swallow. So I don't know. I'm hesitant on going gung-ho because I don't think we're there yet.
And can I put, Mr. O'Grady, can I put you on the spot for half a second? Because you've had an entire week. What do you think the real estate looks like in that area?
John O'Grady with Florida Blueprint Schools. Kelly's spot on. I mean, it's very tight. It keeps getting tighter. She's on a path right now. We don't want to get involved in that. We want to assist where we can. We've been looking at several other properties, and, we have to have the buildable acres. That's the first thing you tell the developer, and then you work with the county on that. So there's other sites I know Kelly's looking at as well, and her team, and we're out there as well, looking at different sites, talking to different people, probably some of the same. And it's a little different when the private sector comes in and talks to a developer than it is when the government. I think everybody in here knows that. So that's the angle that we come at it. So there's several ways to go about this, and you hit it right on the head, Mr. Mathias, that moving a pond, just the mitigation credits alone, takes years. We just did something in Clay County, took 2 years to move. It was the size of this room, half this room, and it cost quite a bit. So, Kelly's on the path doing her due diligence. We're going to continue doing what we're doing and try to bring something to you a little bit more palatable. As the private sector, I think we can work some different things around the Wellness Way. So,
Okay, thanks. Sometimes I think that when you go, that we're Lake County Schools, it has a different approach. You didn't see Walt Disney out buying land when he was going to do Disney.
That's right.
So having maybe that quieter approach. Okay. So in giving some I say I'd have no problem with entering a contract that's reasonable based on due diligence, and a prime is, for me, is that looking at the site plan, that you almost have to that pond has to be moved, in my opinion.
Oh, I think
So-
honestly, I think that's the one thing that makes it a usable site, right? If we can move the pond, it becomes a square site. And that's
Correct.
where we've struggled, is that, you can look at this area and you can see there's a lot of lakes and wetlands and everything else. And so, the site that we've passed up in the past, yep, it was a little bit larger, but it was floodplains, it was very long and skinny, and the edges were, not nice and square. This at least has the benefit, if we can deal with the pond, of being a relatively square site. So, okay. All right, well,
And we get it closer to the 200, hearing
I'm not.
What Mr. Brandenburg
How long
said.
it stays at that point.
all right, we can see how amenable they are to that. So, okay.
May I make a request? When you're doing your due diligence about whether or not we can move the pond, if you could please, if there's certain tests that would indicate whether or not this is going to become a sinkhole, because I
Oh,
can
yeah.
tell you, as a principal who's had a sinkhole, that is not fun.
No.
So that, concerns me a lot.
There's ground penetrating radar that we could do, and also deeper borings, right? I mean, if you puncture through and you're in the aquifer, we're gonna be like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea for us. So there's definitely, I think that would be a very heavy part of what we do.
Thank you.
Okay.
moving ponds, no sinkholes. Priorities. Other than
Nobody
that-
likes sinkholes, so no
And then
bueno.
I'm assuming that we end up going vertical in order to get the same,
So basically 3 stories. If you look at like the Osceola prototype and most of the ones that they build on smaller schools or on smaller sites, you're going to have 3-story classroom buildings. The rest may be, 2-story or 1-story. But generally the classrooms have to go 3-story in order to
Great.
get that kind of
Great.
number.
I appreciate you.
All
Okay,
right,
moving.
thank
Do we want
you.
to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We're going to take a break for 5 minutes?
Yes.
So. And we're now going to look at referendum campaign training. Steve Van Cor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you don't mind, I've stored my phone up here.
Is it secure?
Is it secure?
It's not secure. In case you have questions about the polling data, I have it on here as well. Appreciate you doing this. As school board members and as electeds in Florida, you have really two challenges as to effective message delivery. One, Scott's not here at this very moment, but one of those are the legal restrictions as to what you can and cannot say, when you can and cannot say it, and what the district itself can do. So all of this is being done with his guidance and ultimately his approval because, again, as I stated last time we talked, if there's a challenge of some sort, it's not good enough to say Steve Van Cor said. The other issue is that, as evidenced by this morning's meeting, you have a wide variety of challenges before you. And as smart people with a wide variety of challenges, sometimes it's hard to punch through the simplicity of what it takes to effectively communicate a message. And I want to demonstrate that in just a couple of quick ways. When I was working on my master's degree way back in the black and white days, my major professor told us that the average person receives about 400 paid advertising messages a day. That number now, and I asked my students to go through this, and I asked them, just do a quick search. The minimum number of paid advertising, this is just paid advertising messages a day that the typical person receives, is now at 4,000. And it's quite overwhelming. You see there's two numbers up there. Scott, you missed it. I got to talk about you while you were not here, so it's always better to say things about the lawyer when they're in present. Just that everything we're doing is with your guidance and understanding, because there are strict and clear laws, well, sometimes not so clear, in Florida about what we can and cannot say. But the second number there, I think, is the more important than the 4,000 overwhelming amount of information we receive every day. That's the average number of messages a typical person can recall from a day. So we're competing against just the 4,000 messages as well as the fact that we can only recall 12. And I want to use a couple of quick examples. Well, they've already got it up there. For those of you who are familiar with this logo, Toyota, without cheating, how many of you could have told me what their slogan was? Could you have told me what the Toyota slogan was? You could have? Did you know it was Let's Go Places? You're one of about 5 at about 3,000 people I've done this with.
Really?
You're familiar with Home Depot. Well, by the way, Toyota spends about $200 million a year on their slogan, and very few people recall it. Home Depot, does anybody know what their slogan is without looking at the the documents? Nope. Also, about $150 million a year on Home Depot promoting their slogan.
That's great.
Lowe's, does anybody knows what theirs are? Theirs is?
I've heard that one. I can hear it in my head, but I can't picture it.
Right, it's like it's right there. And I remember Walmart for 27 of its first years, it was everyday low prices. They changed it, and I till this day, and I've done this presentation many times, still can't recall it. How about Nike? Does anybody know what Nike is?
Just do it.
Of course we do. And why is that? Nike's never changed it. It's clean, it's clear, it's what, 8 letters? Let's just do it. And that speaks volumes when you're in a competitive market with 4,000 advertising messages a day. And that does not include, by the way, my wife asked me to pick up half and half on the way home tonight. You've got Boy Scout meeting to get to. You have a pond that needs to be filled in or relocated. Whatever those things are, that doesn't count in there. And so when you go through all of these, whether it's Home Depot, Walmart, what works for Nike is their clearness, their consistency, and they've never gotten off it. And that's what I'm going to work with you today on is, passing a referenda like this, a lot of different things are going to happen. It's going to be relatively complicated. But when we're communicating out to the public, in the best way for them to understand this, I think we need to have a very clear, concise message. So to that end, what makes a good message, right? What is a good message? And in the issue of consistent with Nike's success in getting out a clear message, it needs to be clear, not convoluted, spoken language that the average person can understand. It needs to be concise. It's got to get right to the point and right to the point quickly. And we need to be consistent so that if your superintendent's giving a speech to a Kiwanis Club or a chamber group or an EDC or a group of parents, or Mr. Dodd, you're doing the same, we want to make sure we're all saying the same thing so that we can be that laser beam like Nike and penetrate so that the public gets a full and complete and clear understanding of what we're trying to accomplish with this referenda. So looking at this, it looks quite complicated, right? Leon County School District ad valorem tax for teacher pay and school safety, and then we have about a 68-word summary, right? That's kind of complicated. So what I want to do with you today is work through a couple things. One, how do we speak about this fairly complex charter item in clear language, and then how do we get back to our messaging? And it's an important point to understand, which is you're going to have constituents ask you, whether you're pushing the cart at Publix and someone says, hey, what's up with this referenda? Or you're in this room speaking and a constituents want answers, or you're giving a town hall meeting. We have to be crystal clear as to what it is and comporting with Scott's guidance on what we can and cannot say. So we've developed it into two sets, our primary message and then our secondary message. And then what I want to do with you is walk through how do we our job is to stay on message, right? Our job is to clearly communicate to the public the hows and the whys of this, not necessarily to always answer directly their questions, which could take us off track, but to get back to those messages. So we've narrowed it down, and this is based largely on the polling that we did with you as to what are the most powerful and memorable messages, and the ones that the public, that you've built into the ballot language as a direct result of what the public told you they wanted. How do we get to that? So our four top messages are, first and foremost, is to recruit and retain high-quality teachers by increasing pay. Okay? Clean and simple. That is the highest polling on our poll, is the highest number scored. Secondly, we want to fund safety and security and mental health services. Critical, right? And we have language in there about the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, which is all of that. And then really important for people to understand, this money is not going to Tallahassee. God forbid it's not going to Washington. It's staying right here in our local community to help our kids, to help our teachers, to help our schools. And then lastly, and this is a combination of elements, people will ask you, well, how do I know? How do I know this is going? The most frequently asked question, how do I know the money's going to go that way? Well, we have several layers of protection to ensure that. One, state law. These referenda are governed explicitly by state law. They're limited in how many years they can be on and what the money can be used for. For example, you can't buy a bus. You can't put new carpeting in a schoolroom, a school classroom. You can only do things that are explicitly laid out in statutes. So protection layer number one is Florida law. Protection layer number two is the ordinance you will pass. Protection layer number three, if they don't like what you've done with that money, Dr. Luke, they can unelect you. And lastly, we built in a Citizens Oversight Committee. Not that they will have governing authority, that stays with you, whether you like it or not, but they can raise the red flag. And the way it usually operates is once a year or a couple times a year, you assemble that group in a room, you walk through the budget, you show how much money came in, and you show the allocations. And those four layers of protection usually will give the voters comfort to know that their money is being spent as intended. There are some other key points, too, that are not your primary messaging, but invariably you'll get to. Because I know it's a challenge if you're giving the same speech over and over and over again, and you're always saying the same simple, clear message, it becomes absolutely mind-numbing. I've done it. It's tough because you want to, I've already said that 37 times. Great. That's good. Say it 38, right? But the other set of messages are it preserves important educational programs like art and music, Pleased to say that that also scored very well. Preserves and enhances career and technical programs, kind of a growing thing as we see more and more people, more and more need for trade laborers, vocational education, et cetera. That works there too. And almost all funds go directly into the classroom. There are many, many years of research on this. The more the money's in the classroom and less in buildings like this, or less in a new operations center or whatever, the more the public likes that. So those are our secondary key points. So when we're message delivery, there's a temptation sometimes to kind of say, well, this is all it's going to cost you. I suggest we lead with the positive. And I think I've used the example here before where if in 1993, when a cup of coffee was $1.49, if I'd have said to you, I have a great idea, I'm going to open up a series of coffee shops, we're going to charge $7 for coffee, you'd say, Steve, you've lost your mind. Yet there's a Starbucks seemingly on every corner selling $7 caramel macchiatos, right, or $8 caramel macchiatos. Why is that? They accentuate the positive. They sell what I call the foamy goodness. Talk about the good things this is going to do, and it is. Having stronger schools, having better schools, being able to pay our teachers more so we don't lose them to neighboring counties or to other professions is a good thing for our students. It's a good thing for our community. And I say wash, rinse, repeat. You've got to say this over and over and over again. Just like Nike, eventually it'll penetrate if we're lucky. Also, as we work with the school district, what we're talking about you today is mostly speeches, right? Presentations, questions, like I said, when you're talking to a neighbor on the street corner or in Publix. But also, we have a number of platforms within the school district itself, the website, other tools, whether it's handouts to teachers, whether it's social media posts, or whatever those things are, we're going to try to enact message discipline so that we're saying the same thing, not just vertically, but horizontally as well across all platforms. And then keep in mind, you can't win them all. You're currently polling very high on this, over 64%, which means in a regular campaign election, that would be a landslide, right? But really what that means is 1/3 of the public might not support this. And our job isn't necessarily to try to convert them, although we should try, right, to tell everybody the foamy goodness here. But also when you're being asked a question, let's say you're in an audience like this and there's somebody who's pestering you with really negative questions, their mind is not changeable, they're not necessarily your audience. We can't win them over, but you want to be respectful to those people. You want to understand where they're coming from, but we're also trying to make sure we hold the 64% and hopefully pick up more in the process as well. So it is frustrating sometimes to people when I'm working with them. They're like, but I've got this one guy, he's just not, we can't win them all. We could try. We want to be respectful of them and understand why they're concerned, but we have to recognize we can't win them all. We're just trying to do our very best to get this passed. So how do we stay on message? We've developed a program. You've seen this in action, I'm sure, if you've ever watched the news for more than 3 minutes. It's a technique that we branded LAPS. Helps you keep in mind. My background originally was in chemistry, where we used acronyms for every dang thing. And so we've developed an acronym for this. And let me show you what the acronym does. It says, listen to the question, obviously. But that's important because sometimes you've heard that question 37 times. And there's a tendency to not let the person finish or get the full question out. Then you acknowledge the questioner. You pivot to a positive statement, and then you speak on your positive message. For those of you who are English majors, you know I take your laps, but I've only talked about 4. I'll get to that 5th one in a second. So let me show you how it works. So the first step is to stay on message, is to listen carefully to the question. I think it was Mark Twain who said, listen so that it pains the questioner. Really be an active, a good listener. Why are you doing that? Let's take our standard, a journalist or a constituent asking you a question in a town hall meeting. It's critical to listen for several reasons. One, you want to show that person respect. If they took the time out of their day, of their life to be here with you, they clearly care about our schools, they care about our community. We always want to show them the utmost respect. You want to listen really carefully. But you're doing something else while you're listening. You're thinking about your answer so that your first words out of your mouth aren't, ooh, it's more clear, more getting onto your message. The second thing you want to do is acknowledge that person. Now, these are phrases that I've become comfortable using. These are phrases, and there's a typo. Thank you for brining up this very important issue. It's not supposed to be there, of course. Is whatever statement that you're comfortable with, acknowledging the person, thanking them for being there, acknowledging that their question is a good one. You've heard this all the time, right? In a radio interview or TV interview, they say, oh, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Well, that's an important component here because you're showing the other members of the audience, you're showing that person that you, even though you may disagree with them, you respect their position. You're also further, because those become on a little bit of autopilot, you're thinking about your answer. So by listening carefully, you're buying a little time, you're thinking about your answer by acknowledging them with one of those standard phrases, which make it your own. I've had people say, well, that's how I would speak. Great. Say something that's acknowledgement and respect to that person, but being, you're building a little bit of time into that as well. And then after that, you want to pivot, right? You want to get to our messaging. And almost anything, and I want to demonstrate this for you as well, if they ask you, well, how do I know this money is being well spent? Listen carefully. That's a really good question. I was concerned about this too, and I'm glad you asked it. We have 4 layers of protection to make sure every dollar stays right here in our community. Then you could walk through those 4 layers of protection. Okay, so it's listen, acknowledge, then pivot. What's really important to understand here? What's vital about this initiative? What's different? What makes this initiative different than other things? This money doesn't go into general revenue. It goes into a specific fund to go directly to the programs we've identified. Okay, so you pivot, and then you speak on your message, which is clear, consistent, and concise. Now, I said there's a second S. In my early days of doing this program, working with people, there'd be an article in the paper the next day, and the person said there was something way off message. And I'm like, wait a second, what happened? I did exactly as you said, Steve. I listened, I'm really respectful, I acknowledged it was a good question, I pivoted, I stayed on message. Yeah, but how did this quote come to be? Well, the second S is, they didn't stop talking. Because sometimes there's a tendency to over-explain. Once you've gotten your message out, just do it. You're clear, you're done. So again, I just restated what our messages are: recruit and retain highly qualified teachers, fund safety and security, every dollar stays in our community, and several layers of protection. So that's the second S is the stop talking. So the quick review, our job is to stay on message because we have to break through that 4,000 messages a day. And remembering they can only recall at most 12. We want one of those things to be ours. We start in a very good position, thanks to your good work, the confidence they have in you. That's what the polling showed as well. We've developed language that, based on what they told us, we think is maximizes their concerns about where the money would be spent. And then our job is to continuously, repeatedly, and effectively communicate a positive message about what this is going to do so that you don't have to hire a company to come in and raise money on the side to do all this other stuff to try to get a campaign going. I think you're in good shape, and I think if we do these things, we can stay on message. So I'm happy if anybody wants to drill me, pretend you're a constituent, and ask a question to show you how this works in practice. I'm happy to do it. Or anybody wants to be volunteer to do this, I'm happy to work with you as well in doing that. So everybody want to try it out and see how it works, or I can ask one of you guys a question. Up to you.
Can I ask a question first? So do we mention at all that we had this referendum that was safety, security, and mental health, and the great work that it did? Does that get mentioned at all?
It's similar. So I think we're limited. Am I right, Scott? We cannot say this is a continuation of. By the way, very good question, Mr. Chairman. So I think you can say.
Bite me.
Because one of the invariable questions is what's this going to cost, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where you can bring it up to say we've had a referenda in place like this for years that you guys voted on, that voters voted on. This is a modest increase to that, because you're going from 3/4 to potentially up to a mill, represents about $6 a month to the average homeowner. And the question is, well, why do I have to pay more property taxes? Well, what you're getting for it, talk about the foamy goodness. We're getting better teacher pay. We want to keep and retain our teachers. We want to continue to have A-plus schools.
And do we speak about, if the average home is $250,000 a year, that it's $250 a year for this initiative, for us to own this?
That would be the cost, yes, sir, total.
That's right.
That's the appraised on the property appraiser's website. So you're going from 3/4, which would be a continuation, no change in your taxes, to about a $6 a month increase.
Is that going to be part of the messaging?
Only in response to a question specifically about cost, yes, sir. You'll notice I always talk about the positive things in this thing, which is the goodness and the good things we're going to do with the money.
And does it make any sense to kind of take ownership? Like recently it made the news that Florida is 50th out of 51 states, right?
Because of DC.
In funding.
Yeah.
And we're 59th out of 67 counties. So we're taking this to own our own destiny?
Yes, sir.
Is there any framing of that?
Yeah, you want to have what's called a close locus of control. You want to talk about taking care of our children, taking care of our teachers, taking care of our schools, and using words like stronger schools, better schools, safer schools.
Yeah. I think that's what got the referendum initially passed, is that we took ownership of safety and security, and we added the mental health component. I think that's what got it passed twice. Once and then renewed.
Yes, sir.
This new one, we don't speak about renewal anymore, but do we combine the safety, security, we own it, mental health, we own it, and retention, we own?
All of that, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can say this is a continuation of a tax you guys already voted for. We're having a modest increase of it so we can expand those very programs as well. Yes, sir. But it continue to talk about, it's an instinct to want to talk about the cost. My pushback is talk about the positive things we're doing. Because we talk about $7 coffee, my dad would be rolling over in his grave, right? But if I talk about the foamy goodness and the really good things we're going to do with this money, which is recruit and retain high-quality teachers, improve our mental health services, keep and preserve special programs. Seems like a pretty good deal for $6 a month.
Yeah, right? I mean, we see those commercials.
You can't
all
even
the
get a
time
cup of coffee for that.
Feeding a child or adopting a pet. I mean, it seems like you need to break it down to what it is per day, but I'm not. But it doesn't sound like we do that. We keep it more high profile at our level.
I would, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, some school districts had put charts on their website as to what you would pay if this was your appraised value. I found it makes no difference. People want to know what you're going to do with the money. What I have found, and I've done, as you know, dozens of these, is it's a myth that people are opposed to taxes. We don't like them, we pay them reluctantly, but if it's going towards good things, we happily pay it. That's why 27 of 29 of these passed in 2024, because people were communicated to, and the two that failed, both failed by less than 1 point. So these are very popular with voters.
One question I'm already hearing from people is how much more are we going to pay teachers because of this?
I don't know the answer to that question, and
Hold
it's
on,
unknown.
before we get the answer, can you practice that
That's
with
right.
us? Here's your question. To ask it again.
Absolutely, thank you.
How much more are teachers going to make because of this?
Thank you for asking that question. It's a really good question. At this stage, at this point, it's not known because we have state allocation money to come still. Understand what that's going to come from over the next 4 years as to where we're going to distribute the money, whether it's more in mental health programming or safety programming or just to recruit and retain teachers. That's an unknown answer. But you can know this. Every dollar.
I don't know if I like that answer. You don't like that answer?
Keep going.
You have that answer? I want to hear your answer too.
What were you going to, keep going, go finish, because when you finish on the message.
What we do
I agree.
know is that every dollar will stay in the classroom. Every dollar will stay right here in Lake County. None of it's going to the state. So we will allocate that money according to how much money comes in. I mean, you guys do know the answer?
Okay,
Is that
come
already
up.
laid out over the next 4 years?
Come to the dais.
Well, we have something.
No, you need to come up. Excuse me. Come
If
up
you know
to-
the answer, then yeah, because I didn't know that was a
Because
knowable
we
thing.
don't really know exactly the penny, right? Because obviously we have to bargain that, and so nobody really knows, right?
Right.
But we have to be able to answer that question
But
without
there are
knowing
things
the
we
answer,
do know.
with the facts that we do know.
Yeah.
It will
So
increase. Teacher pay will increase.
Yeah.
So what we've been telling our educators.
Excuse me, yeah, please, please.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Obviously, we've had to promote this a little bit because we have our meeting today with the wonderful Steve as well. So to promote it, we were talking about it at schools. And so when teachers ask us, well, how much will it be? We talk about the Citizen Oversight Committee, we talk about collective bargaining, we say we have meetings, come to our next meeting, let's talk about it so that we can come up with some plans to then present to you all. So we are working on that answer, and as of right now, that's kind of the answer we're telling people because we don't know that exact figure yet, but it's, you will have a voice in that process, and if you're an educator and you care about it, come be a part of that conversation. So does that help for now, at least?
I like hearing the you'll have a voice in that process, right? That's good phrasing in there.
Okay.
But do they understand that it's not guaranteed reoccurring dollars? So these are not, it's not going to be like a salary increase. Does
Correct.
everybody get that part?
So the folks that have been a part of those conversations understand that, right? But it helps to come to that meeting. It's hard to explain that in 2 minutes when they're coming through the lunchroom.
Right.
So, but we are explaining that, and those folks that are involved in those conversations understand.
Cool.
Yes.
So to that
Maybe a
question,
model answer would be, that is unknown, but here's what we do know. We know the money stays here. We know the money will be used in the classroom. We know there'll be an oversight committee. And once we get those dollar figures, they'll be allocated accordingly for these good things.
well, I mean, I think from a math perspective, we generated what, like 30 some odd million dollars off the 0.75?
38.
Okay, so then if you divide that by 4 and add it again,
That
we're,
wasn't our net.
no, I know, but I'm saying then you'd have an $8 million available for teacher pay and related support services at a global level. I mean, that's what's going to generate an additional new dollars.
But do we even speak about that? It's
Yeah,
really the-
to your point, I agree, but that's
It-
kind of how you back into the
Because then
number.
it looks squishy, right? We can't know those numbers. Well, a new development may come in tomorrow and add 5,000 new homes. That will change the equation a little bit as well. And how you allocate the money, whether it's for mental health services, whether it's for teachers, whether it's for bus drivers, cafeteria workers, other educational support personnel, it's yet to be known. But we will have extra dollars that will be targeted to keep high-quality teachers in our community and improve those other programs we're talking about. Yeah, please.
Obviously, our intention with the budget coming out from the state legislature and collective bargaining typically starting in the summer is to come up with a plan and have something in place, at least a preliminary agreement and conversation, so that going into the election in the fall, educators have some idea, or the community has some idea of the direction. Does that help?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's because you can't put an exact, you can't say $72 a month.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the question I keep hearing from people.
How much will it
Yeah,
be?
that's right.
Well, frankly, I love that question. I'll tell you why. It means they understand that it's going towards teacher pay. And if they feel it's going towards teacher pay, if it's more moving it in the right direction, because you're right, we're 50th or 47th, whatever, we're behind where we should be. This moves us closer to where we can be.
And do we know how many counties have an additional millage that goes to teachers?
We do. I don't know it off the top of my head. Did you? Oh, okay. The burning bush back there may know.
Well, there's not
27 counties in the state.
Close, that are in process. Those are the competitor. I mean, that's who we're competing with for teacher retention.
Yeah.
Are the ones that would be, does Orange have one?
So Orange has one, Volusia is actively working to potentially put one on the ballot. Brevard is renewing theirs, and then, I'm trying to think of here locally.
Osceola.
Osceola has one, Polk is putting a new one on the ballot this year.
Marion,
Marion has one,
Sumter.
Sumter does not.
Yeah, Marion has one, and they're renewing it, and the
And theirs is
the
for
polling
teacher
looks
pay?
crazy good.
No, Marion renewal.
Marion includes, money for teacher pay, Polk will be exclusively for teacher pay,
Are they going for a mill?
full mill. And Volusia is looking for a full mill.
4 teachers.
That's what we're working on.
Wow.
Any other-
So our 0.25 ain't going to help us on retention.
Orange is a full mill for salaries.
Starting.
Alpha is a full mill.
And on their full mill, are they talking about it would be structured the same? Because again, it's not recurring dollars, so they can't give a raise. Please, please.
You can, but you might be in crisis in 4 years.
Yeah, in 4 years, you might be.
It wouldn't be smart.
Stephanie Kunkel with the Florida Education Association. Good to see so many of you. Every county has an MOU that they agree to with how to spend those dollars. Some will go 100% for salaries. Some will choose to do an 80-20 split where 80 goes to salaries, 20 goes to other priorities. I think we're looking at with you all 75-25 was what we had been initially discussing. So that MOU, as Elizabeth was kind of talking about, we'll be able to flush that out with you all as to how much the dollars would be. And then it depends on, again, based on the agreement between the district and the collective bargaining agreement, are you intending to use that as a recruitment and retention bonus? Essentially, a bonus. I use a bonus as in air quotes. Do you do that 2 times a year? Do you do that per every paycheck? Do you do it as once a month? So there's lots of ways. I'm going to say this publicly without trying not to shoot myself in the foot and getting the legislature to come in and give us restrictions in the future, but you all get to have, it's essentially choose your own adventure when it comes to these dollars. Once your voters approve it, then you get to structure it in the best needs of what educators need in Lake City, or in Lake County. Sorry, I was just in Lake City last night, different places. And so that's why it's so important to talk about, right here in Lake County, this is what we're doing for our educators and ultimately for the parents and students who rely on Lake County schools for that world-class education they need and deserve.
Is there an opportunity for us to do that work on the forefront so that when we are out, we can say this is what we have agreed to, and as soon as this is approved, this is what will go into place?
That is our intention for between the district and the union to have that MOU agreement so that as we're going out in the summer and we can talk in the community as well as in the schools, what is that dollar amount that you're anticipating, remembering that that money is anticipated. So if there is a shortfall, it may be less. If there is a windfall and you get incredible building and construction here, it could be more. And that amount likely changes year after year.
And maybe we'll have a state budget by then.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed. Any other questions or comments or thoughts?
I have one question just
Yes,
for
ma'am.
clarification purposes. I know for elected officials and myself, we're very limited on what we can say is basically just providing this factual information and staying on message. What is the rule for district staff, teachers? Can they encourage? Can they say go out and vote yes? Can they say all of the things that we're not able to say? Where are their restrictions?
It's my understanding, and I'm going to look over at Scott to make sure he's either nodding in agreement or negative. When you're on your own time, you can say whatever you want as a school employee. So if you're at school pickup and a parent asks you, you want to be an educator, not an advocator. But if you're at your, kids' Boy Scouts meeting or wherever at church and somebody asks you, I believe you're welcome to say whatever's on your mind, either positive or negative. We've had, the chairman, for example, in St. Lucie County, the chairman of the political committee is the superintendent and is out there actively advocating and asking people to vote yes. He's doing that in his own capacity on his own time, not in his official capacity as superintendent. Obviously, it's Diane, when you walk out into the streets, people know you as the superintendent. Maybe your husband or your mom or your kids might see you also in a different capacity, but the public sees you as a superintendent. But it's my understanding, if you're asked, you can say, I'm voting yes. Is that fair, Scott?
You don't lose your First Amendment rights on your own time as a board member or as a superintendent. But as you said, when you're acting in your capacity as a public employee, the government can restrict what you say as a public employee. So it is important. In fact, I always suggest if you're out at the soccer game to say something like, I'm telling you what I think as a person and don't say, well, I'm the superintendent and here's why it's this. I think it's important to let people know this is my opinion. Now, everybody's going to know when you're superintendent and you're expressing your opinion as an individual, that's the most informed opinion you're going to get. And so that's fine. But it is important that people understand you're not acting in your role as a public employee.
And what about in the example, like I'm a head of a Kiwanis club and I invite the superintendent to come in and I promote it, superintendent of Lake County Schools, and she comes and speaks to that group. What's the rule there? Is she able to
If you're
advocate?
invited to go and speak about it, then as long as that's fine. No problem with that. You still don't want to, you want to be careful in moving too much into solicitation as opposed to giving the facts, but it's perfectly fine. It's really when you're actively seeking that opportunity where it might be a little bit of a gray area, but if you're being invited to an event, perfectly fine to talk about, here's what we're doing, here's how the money, we intend the money to be used, here's, the history of, how we've used the money in the past, all of those things should be fine.
So in that capacity, you're up at the Kiwanis, you was invited as superintendent or as chairman of the
Yes.
school board. Can you say, and I'm voting for it?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, you can always say personally what you're going to do. That's
And it's
fine.
nice, well, your guidance, though, is to have a little bit of a verbal dividing line.
Yes.
In my capacity as a school board chair, I have to be neutral and educate, but as
Okay, I want
citizen
to stop
Bill-
you there for just one second, because that's not what we've done in the past. That school board member, elected school board member, I've been out advocating the last 2 times for the passage and promoting it. I can't imagine that I fall under being like an employee, because I'm an elected official. And I think I can say whatever I want to say, because I kind of have done it for the last 14 years.
Well, I think you have to be very careful in how you do that as a board member. And it's not a hard thing to do. It's not a burden to say, here's what I think about this, right? But I do think you need to have some sort of separation.
Delineating, maybe I tempered it a little bit. Like, I didn't come out and go, as a school board member, I think, 'cause that's not how I would approach it anyway. But people know who you are.
They know.
Yeah.
They know.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
what the
got it.
legislature is mostly worried about is that you're spending money to either educate or advocate, reaching out to electors, is what the statute says. That's the big worry is, are you using tax dollars to educate while advocating? That's a bigger concern. And we have a couple of nits that Scott and I are still working through on that.
But I think, just like you said when we were standing at the urinal together, that we cover an awful lot of things
Yes,
in a
you
board
do.
meeting. And I think people are going to look to us as leaders of the district, that we know things and we can give them confidence of why they should vote for this. And so I think being a school board member is kind of important to the discussion.
Absolutely. Well, you're in theory, you're the most knowledgeable about this. I'm sure there's somebody at home that's going through the budget every day. But yeah, absolutely, you're an authority on this, and they're looking to you. And a unanimous vote to put it on means a lot to voters. The ones that have failed, Stephanie and I have done several deep dive analyses. The one thing the ones that have failed have in common is dissenting votes. That even we still pass most of them, even with dissenting votes, but the ones who have failed always had dissenting votes. So you're absolutely right. And that law changed in 2022, tightened it up a little bit. I think that's what Scott's also reacting to.
Yeah, they did. It used to be that it was just solicitation that was the issue, and factual things were fine, and they changed the law. But it's still, you do not lose your First Amendment rights. If you want to go out there as Bill Mathias and you want to talk about it, you're perfectly free to do that.
Even though we've been invited as school board member, who's going to give us an update to the Rotary Club.
Right, and as Steve said, the main thing is, whose money's being spent here, right? Are you doing this on your personal time and not spending state or local resources, or are you getting reimbursed for travel to go somewhere, right? The state funds, that would be a problem.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Good questions. Anything else?
Throw another practice out. Throw another one.
I thought I had a pretty good one there.
Well, you threw me for a loop, so
Right.
yeah, you did, and I'm supposed to be good at this.
So
Well, thank you.
do we mention, again, because we've got 8 years of an established, and we can't talk about the established, it's new, but because of the voters investing in our district, we have some really good data on the mental health side. We have some really good data on what we've done with safety and security. Does any of that become part of?
Yes, in writing. And so Sherry and I have been working together on developing message points and things that we're going to build onto the website. And so we can populate that there. The public is going to be less interested in the individual details of that than more money will be spent to help our children, who are struggling with mental health, et cetera.
But I think that if you serve 10,000 kids in a year, and you had 3 that through early intervention may have prevented them doing harm to themselves or to others, that's powerful.
Oh, if you have a personal story to tell in a presentation to lead with, when we instituted this, we didn't know how to have this program, and now we have this program, that's maximum foamy goodness. Yes, sir. That's fantastic to say, as a result of this, we used an example in Manatee County. They had lost their Teacher of the Year to Sarasota County. They passed it, got the teacher back, and they were able to use that as a good story. Our Teacher of the Year came back because of this initiative. First time it squeaked through at 50.1. The next time it squeaked through with 67, something like that, and has to do with personal storytelling. So yeah, if you've got good stories to share, obviously you don't want to call out a student by name. Joey Smith was violate HIPAA and everything else, but yeah, absolutely, positive stories.
And we have those stories, so I don't know how we play that into, I guess, like you said, the website or whatever. And we have real data that shows how many kids we've served. Not necessarily you mention the kids that were Baker acted or whatever, but you can mention, because I know for a fact specifically one recently, that because of the interventions that we have in place, that kid.
It would be fantastic if you're giving a presentation, let's just use this mythical Kiwanis Club, and you start out with that story and then go on to the 30,000-foot messaging. I think it's fantastic to show how it really impacted one of our children, because that goes to the close locus of control, which I'm very concerned about, which is, conservative taxpayers want things closer to home. Where liberals, it takes a village, conservatives, it's family values, right? Simplest way to understand that, to talk about an individual child who lives in our community and how this helped that individual child. It's fantastic. As long as you're not violating HIPAA rules or something like that.
Or come out of the door, come on in and tell them about it.
Good idea. That ought to make national news.
I think, anybody else got anything? Good.
No, can I
Appreciate it
just-
very much. Thank you.
No, wait, stand by.
Oh,
No, I just wanted to thank you, Vanessa. Stephanie, thank you for being here today. Just some next steps. So they'll be with us all day. We're going to be meeting with school leaders, doing something similar for principals this afternoon, along with teachers later this afternoon. And so thank you for spending the day with us, just so that we all leave better informed and prepared. And as we continue with preparation, he's been working very closely with Sherry. I think they talk probably, I don't know how many times a week. So they'll be providing us with some talking points as well as presentations, so that we can actually start scheduling who's going to go where in the community, and kind of divide and conquer as we head into the summer, which I know will be my major focus, as well as,
yeah, and Sherry's been
Collectively, all of
just
us.
phenomenal to work with.
yeah, she's
We had
pretty
an
good.
exchange with the Orlando Sentinel the other day, and she's like, "What? How about this as an answer?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's perfect." So thank you,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank
We'll
you.
see you in a
And
little bit.
So will we get any feedback for how these meetings go today?
I'll be happy to give you some feedback.
Are you going to all of them?
I will be with the school leaders, and I will stay for as long as I can with the teacher group, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move right in, because the day is getting long, to a discussion of the Superintendent Cornegy's annual evaluation and contract extension. Mr. Cole?
Yes, sir. So in conjunction with School Board Policy 1040, which is entitled Evaluation of the Appointed Superintendent and the Superintendent's Employment Agreement, each board member must conduct an annual evaluation of the superintendent. Now, the evaluation is broken into 2 parts. Part 1 is based on standards and professional practices derived in part from the Florida Leadership Standards. And those standards are 1, vision, culture, and instructional leadership. 2 is operations, resource, and personnel management. 3 is board governance and policy. 4 is communication and community relations. And 5 is ethical leadership. Now, the 5 standards then are broken down into 5 subcategories, and the total points for all sections are then computed in making the evaluation. So the school board members rank the superintendent's attainment of each indicator based on the following rubric. Exceed expectations gets 3 points. Meets expectations gets 2 points. Needs improvement gets 1 point, and unsatisfactory, no points. So what that means, when you break it all down, is that a perfect score for the entire board for Part 1 is 375 points. The superintendent scored 370 points on Part 1. That works out to 98.7%, which I think is an A+. Now, Part 2. So Part 2 of the evaluation is based on student performance objectives and is based on district goals specific to student achievement. So the superintendent and the school board define 5 objectives to serve as a priority focus. And those objectives are, first, increase the performance from the baseline to end-of-year report for high school Algebra 1 students. 2, increase graduation rates annually and maintain a rate of 90% or higher. 3, increase the percent of students earning industry certification or advanced credit. Increase the number of individual or group counseling sessions provided to students across all grade groups. Increase behavioral and emotional support programs and services. And increase annually teacher retention rates based on a 3-year average. Increase annually the percentage of teachers scoring highly effective in the instructional practices portion of their annual evaluation. So for this section, the rubric is meets or exceed expectations. If you do, you get 2 points. Needs improvement, you get 1 point. Unsatisfactory, no points. So the maximum score is a 2.0. The ratings were averaged, and the superintendent scored 2.0 on this section, so 100%, again, an A+. So, Chair Mathias, at this time, it would be appropriate for you to ask for a motion to approve the evaluation instrument ratings for the superintendent for the 25-26 school year. And after a second, to allow all the board members to make any comments about the process or the superintendent, and then that should be followed by a vote.
And we can do this in a workshop?
Oh, that's right, we're at a workshop, Barbara. Yeah, okay, never mind. Can you tell I took it from last year when we were at a full meeting? Yes, you can still have your comments.
We can have comments?
You can have comments, yes.
Okay. Okay, so
we
we'll
put our
start with,
Yeah, I think
Mr.
it
Rainbow.
speaks for itself. Once again, the 3-4 years that I've been here now for this process, it's always been somewhere around this 370, 372 out of 375, which is just incredible. As I say every year, you 3 get a ton of credit for making this decision going on 10 years ago.
Yes, we do.
And we firmly now have the Superintendent of the Year for the state of Florida. We have achieved an A rating and all the things due to her leadership. So I'm just very thankful and appreciative to work alongside you all and with Superintendent Cornick at the helm.
Certainly, we have Superintendent of the Year because she deserves it. We are very fortunate to have her. I believe that because of her being here, Lake County Schools is a much better place for children to be educated. So we're grateful. Thank you for your service.
Mr. Dodd?
Well, I wrote a lot here. I don't know if I could possibly say more, but
Yeah, don't.
okay.
I got other stuff to go on, but go ahead. High spots, go ahead. You got, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to shorten you.
Yeah, I don't think I can. Well, I mean, I can say more, but
You don't have to.
But I don't have to because I think the evaluation really speaks for itself when you get 5 of us up here.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Luke? Go ahead. You done?
Yeah, I'm good. How do we censure the chair? Can we review that parliamentary procedure?
We'll look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Luke?
Similarly, I wrote lots of comments, but obviously I'm proud to serve, so alongside you. Thank you.
It's been amazing, 10 years, so. Which then brings us up to the next topic, which is July, the superintendent's contract expires. So I think that it would be appropriate for us to discuss now extending her contract for up to 1 year. And if we could put that on the board agenda, that would be great. So, anybody have any comments about it? Okay, so we can add that then.
Speak?
All right.
Change that to at least 1 year?
At least 1 year.
To up to 1 year?
Up to at least.
Kidding. Fully supportive.
How do you want it to say? Up to 1 year?
Yeah.
right?
1 year.
1 year. Up to 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, because after that, then we'll have some other discussions. So let's get this all through the vote on Monday, and then we'll move forward with next steps. Okay? Okay. So that was easy breezy. So that brings us to, lost my agenda. Are we at board member comments?
No comments.
No comments, good work.
Yep, likewise.
Likewise.
That was it?
I thought if I tried to say something, that'd be a gavel.
Yeah. This is really good work today. So Superintendent,
I'm good.
you're not even going to say thank y'all very much for the,
Well, I was going to do that after y'all approve, after you approve it under consent
Yeah.
on Monday night.
Oh, then you'll say something positive.
I will. I do want to acknowledge, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, so I'd be remiss if I didn't just publicly thank our teachers. We did a Super Sunday on it yesterday, but just very grateful to them and wishing them a great week and all of our students great success as we head into testing week, too.
And I really wish y'all good luck today. It'll be very interesting that how it's received and how positive we can make this. And then we're to attorney?
Nothing.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned.